Welcome to episode 3 of the Sacred Rainbow Warrior podcast. Today I introduce a very good friend of mine, and I've known him since I was very young. We went to school together, but we weren't close friends until we were older in our teenage years. And Steve is a true brother, true brother. Steve helped me through a very difficult time in my life when I went to university, and I essentially had a grievous bodily harm. I had my head kicked in very badly, and it completely changed my life. Severe head injuries, which changed my mental health to the point where I was not the same person anymore. I couldn't function in life. So eventually, when I came home, back home, he got hold of me and he dragged me out of bed every day. He would knock on my bed and knock on my door, sorry. And he would, even when I was in bed and I said no, he would turn up at my door anyway. So I owe him a lot of thanks because he took me out of a very dark place. But the problem with Steve is he is not, I mean, it's not a problem. He's very humble, but it's very difficult to get Steve to take compliments because he's so humble and strong. So I tried to get the best out of him, but really Steve is comical. He's a very funny man, and I tried to get that out of him as well because this is definitely a more light-hearted chat. This one, I'm trying to embrace all the difficult and different and light-hearted journeys that men are going through, but Steve really is a unique man, one that needs highlighting. He is a fighter, not only a professional fighter and a teacher of fighter, but a fighter as a man. He he helped me reclaim the fight when I wanted to give up, when I wanted to end it. Steve said no, fight, and he taught me how to do that. And this is why Steve is such a special human being. If you speak to anyone that knows Steve, they only have glowing things to say about him because he is a great person. He's just very humble, and he is very passionate about martial arts, and he's been doing that since a very young age. And I spent 10 years of that journey with him. So it's been beautiful to see his evolution. And I just want to apologize for the preference of the video I chose on Zoom because the call was over mobile and it switched between speaker instead of having us both up. So I apologize, I won't do that again. But what came up in the conversation, which took me by complete surprise, is we were speaking about mental health, and there was a big community of people we used to train with, and one of our dear friends committed suicide. And really, this is what my podcast is about. It's to help men to um, to bring these kind of men into the light and to really share this awareness of overcoming the dark days and nights. And Steve is a very good mentor and tutor of this. So I really wanted to bring him on today. And he also has a very different story. He talks about his relationship with a con artist. He didn't want me to mention any names, but she is a very famous con artist, and apparently she's been in jail a couple of times. And she did some horrendous things to Steve, but Steve just brushes it off with a laugh. You know, he's an amazing person, but she did some horrendous things to him. So it's a very interesting conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. It's because it's been, how long has it been since
We spoke last in Lido Lounge, didn't we?
I moved up to London, didn't I?
No, we spoke in Lido Lounge. Do you remember? That was probably,
Yeah, but before that, how long was it? It was years.
yeah, I was in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, you went to Vietnam. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I went to Vietnam.
When was
That's
that?
all
About
over.
10 years ago.
No, not that long ago. Oh my days, it was 8 years ago. You know, like it doesn't seem that long ago. It just shows you, right?
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and because I went up to London in 2014.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
10,
because
10 years ago.
we were seeing each other. Like we would see each other when you were back, and you were, you know, you'd see like John and things like that. And yeah, I remember you were like up there. You're kind of part of the rat race then, right?
Yeah, yeah. I remember that's when it was 2015. I got a job up there at a bank and they offered me uh a 360 healthcare assessment and they offered me to go see a psychologist and that's when I got diagnosed at the time with those asylum letters that they give you, you know.
Right.
Um and so I went through yeah, I don't think I've spoken to you about this. This is why I wanted to catch up with you. Um there's so much to talk about, like because when you and I were doing when you and I were training together,
Mm.
we were also doing the profiling, the psychology stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you and I had like some basics on
Yeah,
how to identify
I guess like a
ourselves.
blueprint.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't realize, and I don't think anyone did, not even our teacher, that how lost I was. I was completely lost. I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And I went to London, had the health assessment, and then when they told me I had CPTSD, it was really interesting the way it happened because I described how when I had a shower, I was that was when it was at its worst when I was having a shower.
Mm.
And they said it's because shower desensitizes your hearing, and so you can't hear, and so you know like when you're listening out, you're like, oh, is there someone gonna break in or something? You know that kind of
Right.
attitude. You know,
Like self-preservation mode
yeah,
kicks in
yeah.
when you're.
Um, like this wild kind of like always listening, ready to ready for the worst. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what f from doing so much martial arts. That's kind of you know I took that with me every time into my mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and it just made my body really just completely traumatized.
Of
Because
course.
there was never a real fight. Do you get me?
No, but your body doesn't know the difference, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
your body thinks you're still in a fight or a pre-fight mode, right? When you're
Yeah. But
nervous or anxious.
that's the thing with PTSD. It makes you believe um that you need to be ready for a fight at any moment,
Mm.
and that's exhausting. You know.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just makes the body really tense. And so when they told me that I had excuse me, CPTSD, it was a relief in a way.
Mm.
I
Mm.
didn't see that long term, but it was a relief at first because I knew something was wrong and someone confirmed it for me. And
Yeah, something was identified, right?
yeah, and it gave me an opportunity to do something about it. And so I started seeing a therapist, and I took I took it I took it upon my own. I took responsibility,
Yeah,
for
you were
sorting myself
accountable.
out. Yeah, and I think that's what I liked about you and I is we were similar like that. We took action instead of whinging about it. But you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, it's true.
I was in a difficult place when I came back from uni, and you helped me understand that. And I'll talk about that later. But with the psychotherapy, at the beginning, it was like, oh wow, it started opening me up, and I realized straight away, not straight away, but over a period of months, because I was reading as well. Every session, I would go, what do I need to read? What do I need to read? I was like the most eager student to a
Student.
psychologist you could ever have. And they're just space holders. And I was expecting answers, but I had to find the answers myself, which was great. But what I realized is I didn't I didn't know how to identify my emotions.
Mm,
Like when I got my head kicked in at uni and I
mm.
came home, I mean, I can't remember what I was like. What I just remember that I used to lay in bed all day, and
Vacant, vacant, I would have
yeah,
described you
it's
as.
yeah, and so I realized that that emotion is apathy.
Mm,
It's totally just it's apathy to me was there's no point in trying because somebody's just gonna stop you. It was that kind of energy. Like I'd lost the fight. And yeah, I'd lost the fight. Yeah. I mean, it's multi-dimensional. I actually lost the fight, but I lost that fight within me. Do you know what I mean?
of course, yeah, the fire had gone.
Yeah. And when I started going to psychology, I started to learn about these emotions that I was feeling. And it really helped me start to look at myself more. I mean, I was doing it
Mm.
anyway, but before I was looking at my emotions, I was looking at myself as a victim, always blaming myself. And when I started seeing this therapist, I remember I think it was like 5 years in of seeing him, and I was like, this isn't going anywhere anymore. And I said to him, I need to understand something that's been happening to me, and I because after a while, when nothing moves, you question even deeper, and I questioned my thoughts because my thoughts were at the time were just critical of everyone, people I didn't know, even kids, even dogs, anyone that walked past me, I criticise in my mind. And so I said to him, like 5 years in, I was so freaking angry. I was so angry when I found out because he could have told me like after a year, but it told me 5 years later. He goes, yeah, that's narcissism. I was so angry. I went outside and I was like, why have I had to wait 5 years for you to tell me that?
Mm.
Because it could have saved me so much time. Because narcissism is the root. It's the root of it all. You can trace everything back to
Do you
that.
say, do do you think, when, so you take, for example, when you talk about walking past people and judging, um, and, or anything and judging, do you think there was an element of like, judging, but also looking down or contempt for those people, like a criticism
Yeah,
would
yeah, of
bring
course.
immediately to mind.
Yeah, of course. And I learned that that was me talking about myself.
Right.
So that's what narcissism is.
Self-judgment through others, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. It's I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel good enough. And then, when you realize that, you're like, okay, wow, that's a step in the right direction. But then you have to go, okay, well, why do I? Why do I not feel worthy, and why do I speak down about myself? And then you have to trace it back, and it's not just you trace it back to one source. There's multiple sources. That's why it takes so long to heal.
Mm,
And the putting other people down. Well, you know full well, you know full well who taught me how to do that.
mm,
Do you know what I mean?
mm, mm,
And um, when you grow up and you're made to believe that you're worthless and that anything you create is worthless, then
mm,
you start believing everyone else is worthless
mm.
because you don't feel worth because you don't feel worthy, right?
Yeah, do you think that to some degrees a justification as well?
For what?
So, so for example, if you feel worthless and you don't feel your life has much worth, well, then, but it's okay because no one else's life is worth much. Do you see what I mean? Like, if you create that, paint that picture in your head that, well, we're all in that same boat where everyone's life is worthless. Do you see what I mean? So it's like you're tarring people with the same brush as your perception of yourself. I'm not saying that is yourself,
Yeah, no, I
but if you,
understand. Yeah.
you
Um,
know, like maybe it's like a coping mechanism to some degree
yeah,
if you've
no.
got this negative self-talk.
Well, I this is what I used to have, and so I kept going deeper with it and deeper, and I came to a what's the word, a plateau with it. Because you can, like with what you were saying, you can go down a rabbit hole like that, and it doesn't go anywhere because it just keeps
No.
coming back to the word narcissism. So I had to understand what narcissism was, and I didn't I didn't understand what it was until 2020, so 5 years later.
Right.
Um, and it was through the help of plant medicine, and I realized that it's a toxic toxic shame avoidance mechanism. And when you look at any avoidance of your heart, any avoidance of love, it always comes back to narcissism. So me not feeling worthy was an avoidance of my worthiness, right? So
Mm,
any attack on someone or an attack on myself, anything like that, anything at all, is a toxic shame avoidance mechanism. Always comes
mm,
back to that. And then I got to the point where I cleaned all that out of my system, which has taken an enormous amount of sacrifice and time and effort and money and everything. And in partnership with my partner, with a woman, which is even more difficult. And then when you get to clearing all the narcissism out, you're like, well, where does narcissism come from? You know? And so when I went down that rabbit hole and I realized that it was ignorance, and that changed my whole life, finding that out. Because when you realize that you're ignorant, the first question that I ask myself is, what am I ignorant of? And when you continually ask that question, it opens up things that you've never dreamed of, like it opened up my heart
mm,
because I was ignorant of my own heart. And I find, you and I have had a similar fathers in a way, very quite old fashioned. And we weren't taught to open our hearts, to
no.
show our emotions.
Mm,
And for me that was really destructive for me because it meant I couldn't be myself. And so I had to find a way to reclaim that. And when I met my partner, she just kept saying to me, and whenever I went into any kind of spiritual uh, circle, medicine circle, they always just say to me, "Open your heart," and I'm like, "How do you do that?"
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I just kept hearing that over and over. Just one of the triggers that used to really annoy me about I know you've not been in any of these Edison circles, but in the spiritual community, they just always say love and light. It
Mm.
used to really make me angry because it doesn't mean anything. If you don't know what it means, it doesn't mean anything.
I hear it a lot in like in different like love and light and um and what it might mean to someone and it might mean to another person. It might be like, but for me, I sometimes I'm like, you're full of shit. Um, because I've like seen that love and light person be like, yeah, love and light, love all, be all, understand all. And then I'll see the same person 10 minutes later treating like a shop worker, like a piece of shit because they haven't got the thing that they want. And
Exactly.
then I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I kind of have more respect for the person who, even if they're not a nice person, that's all what you perceive as a nice person. There's always reasons for everything, but at least they're true, right? At least there's not a facade there that's like, you see it in all these like, you know, I hate to say it, I hate to sound like, but like when I've been to women's houses and come back to their house, and when I was younger in my youth, a bit of a misspent youth and whatnot, and you love life, laugh, and all this. They're the same women that are like complaining about their ex to me and how he's a piece of shit. And I'm like, well, where's the love, life, laugh now? So, and yeah, and then you're like, well, wait a minute. Why are, this isn't, you can take that shit off the wall because there's no love, life, laugh now or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm saying that
I know
because,
you mean it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like you don't, you're not like, you're not, goes back to that word we were talking about earlier. You're not being accountable. You're saying that this person, you're putting all the blame on that person,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you're not actually going, well, where's my part in this? First of all, you chose him or her or whatever, you know? Second of all, was it just, if something was purely their fault and you had no part to play in it, is that the honest truth? And I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but when it's like open up your heart, but then you're treating or talking to someone like shit, are you opening up
Yeah,
your heart at that
yeah,
point?
yeah, exactly. I think your journey as well is brilliant, and I think you can make a whole book on your journey with women.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Last,
also, it goes back to what I was saying, right? I can blame them. I can blame them. But there's a choice I made,
yeah,
and I can say, oh, it's their fault or it's whatever. But really, is probably, it's not probably. You can look at it from like a mathematical point of view. Let's say there is no one on earth where it mucks up that much, and you go, well, it's not my fault, it's them, they're mental. Well, wait a minute, where's my part to play in this, right? And now, as you grow, right, you
yeah,
realize, you go, actually, shit, I've most things have been have been my own doing, or even if I've like. Hmm, how would I say it? Like, even if I knew it was trouble, trouble was sometimes attractive. Like the devil can be attractive, right? You know that it's like, oh shit, this is going to lead me down a bad place. But sometimes, I hate to say it, especially for me, especially in my youth, I liked the bad place.
yeah, yeah. I get that. Yeah, I've said this to men before, and I've had people disagree with me, but I know it's true. Is that men find destruction sexy?
Yeah, yeah,
They do, yeah. And it it's but like you say, the whole accountability, responsibility, it's that's what has, that's what's causes, well, everything really. These all these problems of society is this ignorance of choosing for separation, and it does all stem from relationship. It all stems from not loving each other. It always comes down between men and women, and that all stems from the avoidance mechanisms that I was talking about. Like your I think the last time I spoke to you, weren't you dating some kind of con artist or something from Finland or something?
Okay, so yeah, well, I
This
can't really mention names or anything because she's
she,
actually back in prison. So and
really,
yeah, and I was invited onto a podcast about that. But now this is and I swear down, Alistair, I swear down, I was on an airport to go and see her in Norway, and the feeling I had of like this is wrong. You know this is wrong. You like physical, mental, spiritual feeling. My whole body, my whole being was telling me don't go. Like it was like panic, sweat, all of it. And this is how ignorant I was. What? And I told myself this in my head: whatever comes of this, it will make a good story. How destructive is that?
yeah,
And then what came of it was a lot of pain, and it caused myself pain to some degree, but really the effect it had on other people. And that's sometimes what you've got to look at is like, yeah, you can destroy your own life, but is it worth destroying others around you? Is it, is your actions hurting other people? And we are blessed in a way because we've always had, you know, right, right, however our parents raised us and stuff like that, our mothers have always been there for us and they've loved us and they've always been there. So to cause that person pain, you touched on it earlier, like you see someone in pain, you carry some of that pain as well.
yeah,
Like when you say, like with partners and things like that, you feel that pain, and it's you feel their trauma, right? So in my like Peter Pan head, when I've done these stupid things and I don't realize the actual, well, until more recently, the pain that I've caused other people with that. Because it's not just you hurt other people. You don't even realize it. And that has a ripple effect.
tell me the story. What happened?
But basically, long and short of it is I met this woman through Facebook. Well, no, I'd actually met her at a seminar in London years before. She's attractive. She was like she had it written all over her. She was destructive, right? And then I was going to and from Vietnam, and she was messaging me, blah blah blah, and she dropped out messaging me for a while.
But you met her. Didn't you meet her like days after your father died?
No, so I'd actually met her very briefly at a Krav Maga seminar in London
Before,
before,
right?
and then we stayed in contact.
Okay.
But she was like a liar, right? So a lot of it was this,
She was a
there was a
compulsive
lot of
liar, wasn't she?
she was, there's documentaries made about her and stuff like that. She's the real deal. If you're gonna do something else, do it properly. If you're gonna You're gonna meet a con artist, meet one who's like had a
Fall in love with
documentary
one.
for yeah, fall in love, yeah, do it properly. But yeah, so I'd met this woman and yeah, so she got in contact with me later, but it was there was like a time where she had no tell a lie, I got in contact with her. I got in contact with her. She'd put like a Facebook status and I'd replied like, I hope things get easier for you, da, da, da. And we started messaging, right? And she was and there was bizarre things happening. Like straight away, it was immediately like latched onto me. Like, oh, okay. Da, da, da. So anyway, she comes over England and the bizarre things that when she was here, oh, my ex is messaging me again. Da, da, da. One, she was like making out she was like a, and this is no word of a lie. And I knew it was bullshit, but I would just play along because it's easier. It's not easier in the long run. Don't play along. She was a Olympic horse rider. She was a professional musician who had toured with Craig David. What else was she? She was an actress. She was like a bikini model. Mate, honestly, if her CV is what was in her head, she was Superwoman. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then she's talking about her ex, and so she comes, and because of the like love bombing nature of her, and she was like, promises this, promises that, and she had lots of money. Now looking back, I know why. She ripped off people. She couldn't rip me off. I didn't have anything to hurt me. So, if she was barking up that, she was barking up the wrong tree there. Um, so if that was the plan, I don't know the plan anyway. So anyway, she came to England and she really like basically seduced me with everything. She's a keen listener, and if you look at like seduction as a thing, it's just showing a keen interest, isn't it? And taking and extrapolating how you can manipulate that person, right? So she'd done that really well, and then she'd like called me and was like, "You've got to come to Norway. I'm pregnant."
She
And
told
I'm
you
like,
she was pregnant.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah." And oh, Alistair, it's bizarre. So she's pregnant. Oh shit, really? Okay. So how she'd known she was pregnant after 2 weeks. I mean, I should have really looked up a bit of biology by then. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, so she's pregnant. And then to make the story, her ex had heard about us and shot himself in the head. Okay.
She told you that.
But yeah, shot himself in the head, right? But this was the best bit, right? But he was on a life support machine. So I was like thinking, he must be a really shit shot. If at point blank range shooting yourself in the head, you still can't do it. I don't mean to be facetious, but I'm like, oh, what's he done? Oh no, I'm gonna do it, and then he hits his cupboard or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm like, so I go over anyway because I'm like, this woman's full of shit. She's full of shit. But there's a good story at the end of this. There's not a good story. She was full of shit. She was dark. I should have ignored all of that. But I went over anyway, and the lies just grew. And I was like, this is weird. And it became farcical. She would like hide my bank card. She would do really weird things. She stole my passport. I had to get an emergency passport to come back. And um she would promise me I'm going to buy you a gym in Norway. She had lots of money, like she's going to buy me a gym. I could start up my own gym. Like my passion for training and stuff. So I was like, and this is where it's like, look at yourself, right? So I can say a lot of bad things about her. I'll tell you something that will make you smile in a minute, anyway, right? So I'm like, right, I'm gonna get what I want. I deserve it. So I'm gonna get my gym. I'm gonna get my gym in Norway, and I'm gonna smash it. I'm gonna rip it up. I'm gonna get what I want. And I realized like this, there was this woman who's a compulsive liar, really narcissistic, really like everything. She's better than everyone, looking down at everyone, never made a nice judgment about anyone. And there was me, suckered into all her lies, da da da. But also, I'm narcissistic. Why? Because I'm believing her lies. I'm believing that I deserve this gym from this woman that I don't even know. You
Mhm.
know, so really, what I had attracted was actually I was a reflection of. Do you see what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'd come
yeah.
to the conclusion, like, oh shit, yeah, I'm fucking up my life, but I'm actually seeing in the mirror this really dark human being, and that was me as well because I was dark. I was like, because I didn't care because all I was seeing was the end result was I was going to get what I want, right? Um, anyway, it all transpired. It all came to a head. She wasn't pregnant, da da da. But as I was leaving, getting an emergency passport, hiding out because I couldn't even stay in a hotel, Alistair. I had to get an Airbnb because my passport was stolen. No one's going to let you in a hotel in Norway if you've got no identification. You know. She's oh, so she sends me this message because of the stress you've caused just walking out of me. I've lost the baby. Right. Then the next message, she's shown me a picture of now you got to bear in mind this is probably at this point like a 22-week-old baby or something like that. 20, no, less, maybe like 16 weeks. Is there is no you can Google, there's no baby going to survive at 6 weeks. Now, not only that, that when she sends this picture over, this picture of this kid has blonde hair. She's Asian. Do I look blonde? And so I'm like, oh, lost the baby, and then she's gone, sent me this other picture. The baby's still here. You can see your son. Da, 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 da.
What?
Right? And then I'm like, well, I thought it was dead. It's like, no, I told you that because you've left me, and I just want
How,
you
how
dead
did
in my
wait?
life.
How did you feel when she said that you had caused a miscarriage? Did you believe it?
No,
Right.
no, I
Okay.
knew she. By that point, I was like, yeah. So, um, and then, but she was dark, right? So, like I'd lost my father at the time quite recently, and she was like, I've named him Peter.
No,
Yeah, yeah, it says my father's name. So it's
that's
always like
sick.
really manipulative. It
That's
is
sick,
sick.
Steve. That's really sick. Oh my God, she's sick.
I've got the emails. I've got the I've got the emails. I had to basically keep everything because it was like
How
becoming
did you
police
react?
inquiry because she was
Yeah,
trying to stalk me.
yeah. I had a similar situation with
Yeah.
Nick's being stalked. Yeah. Yeah. How did you react to that though? Did that bother
Well, I
you?
just thought, well, my son must be Jesus, must be the second coming. Um, Uh, no, no, not really. Because by that time, you realize how ill the person is. But Alistair, once again, I have to go back to I had become so I'd become caught in a web. All I was thinking about was what was I going to get at the end of this. So I'm no better. I'm not looking down on her. That's a very ill person. I had seen in the mirror a person that just wanted to get one thing. I'll never know for the life of me what she wanted, but I wanted one thing at the end of it as well, and I'd become obsessed with just getting this gym bought for me in Norway and starting up the thing. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
It's an interesting question though. What did
So,
you want
but it
from
was
me? Yeah.
it's like a lot of things that. Sorry,
I said it's an
what did
interesting
she want from?
question. Yeah. Sorry,
What did she want from me?
is there a delay?
No, no. I just misheard. Did you say what was the interesting
You
question? Like, what
yeah,
did you
yeah,
want from me?
you said you've no idea what she wanted from you, but it's an interesting question to understand what did she actually want from you.
Do you know what I think it is? I think I look back. and I think like we said the word narcissism, and I think it's bandied about too much
Pardon?
nowadays. I think everyone who splits up with that, people band around this word narcissism, right?
Yeah.
And it's used too much. Like every woman that splits up with a partner, and every partner bloke who splits up with their immediately their part ex is a narcissist.
Yeah.
That's not the case, right? It's not the case. Like my exes, I look back, I can call them this, that, and the other. I had my part to play. They had their part to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It, um, if I start labeling them something, it's not fair on them, and it's not being me being accountable. But anyway, she was, and she's the only person that I've been with that I will hand on my heart say she had an illness. You don't end up in prison like two times. And like, so I was invited on a podcast, Alistair. She'd been ripping up off people since she was 14. She was wired that way.
Yeah.
And she had a very interesting backstory and she would tell me these really terrible things that had happened to her sister. Her sister wasn't around. It was all about her. So there was probably some trauma there. But getting back to this, so this happened. I came back from Norway. I think like 3 years ago. Yeah, probably about 3 years ago. I jacked in my job because she was like, "Look, I'm gonna make sure you get this gym. You don't have to worry about it. Blah blah blah. You'll be fine." But she'd obviously orchestrate things so she wanted them wet. And I was stupid because I was just thinking, I'm gonna get what I want. And that's the definition of being like it's all about what I want and go, right? So oh sorry. The end result being I came away from that. And at the time, like a lot of painful things, you go, oh, that was awful. What she did, all these lies, But I really, for the first time in my life, I went, what have I done? What has got me to this place where I'm just so greedy, I'm ignoring lies. What I'm doing, what have I? And I can honestly say, although it was a quite painful period in my life, it's probably the best thing for me because for the first time in my life, I'd looked and I'd gone, actually, I really fucked up and it's my fault. It's not her fault. It's not, it was me trying to find a shortcut, an easy way out. Right.
Yeah. I think that's
Um,
when I came back from London. That's when I first saw you.
mm, yeah, yeah, because we'd spoke in the garage. You'd walk past, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. So, and then I was like, I've got to look at the things I do wrong. And the things that I do wrong aren't what everyone else does wrong because we're all different, right? So, like my problems with, the way I was when I drank, where I was just as a human being, I was so one track, and it embarrasses me to say it. I was like, I'd gone over to Norway with the hope of getting something from it at the cost of like ignoring my kids. Well, not ignoring them, like I was contacting them, but like I'm gonna wait here until I get what I can and then bring them over. It wasn't happening. It was, and I was just holding on to this belief that I deserve something that really didn't. I haven't worked for it or anything. I haven't. I just believed lies, and I just wanted a shortcut. I was that sort of egotistical that I felt I was entitled to it. So it was a good thing in a way because now it like made me look at myself and I think a bit of introspection and looking at yourself and going, your problems are your own. Whatever anyone says, 9 times out of 10, the problems are their own,
Yeah.
of their own doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect in relationships and stuff, and I, I but I can see where I go wrong, and that's it. That's quite like it's quite hard for me to admit, but it's also like, well, I can see where I can go wrong. It's not about the other person like it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. I think you and I. Oh, well, I'll speak for myself, but because you've just spoken about your journey. But for me, I always, even when I was thinking bad of people, I was always looking at myself as the person to blame.
Right.
And that, to me, in the long term, I saw that as a benefit. It helped me because it made me realize that, yeah, actually, I am the problem.
Mm.
I'm also the
Mm.
solution.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if I'd have gone it the other way, which most other people do, and said, "Oh, my parents are the problem,"
Yeah.
or she's the problem, or he's the problem, then, like most people, I you end up becoming spiteful and controlling, and you end up being completely out of your integrity and taking advantage of people and just turning into an all-round piece of crap.
Well, you don't have any accountability because it's so easy just to blame all your shit on other people, isn't it? You know, you
Yeah,
can go, oh, it's my parents' fault, it's this fault. At the end of the day, right, now I'm a parent, I understand my parents more. So, like, you cannot understand someone unless you have congruency. So unless you have walked in their footsteps. So unless you have some kind of identification with that person, you can't understand them. So I can blame this one and that one and that one, but until I've lived their life, now I'm a parent, I completely get certain aspects of certain things, and it doesn't come with a guidebook. It doesn't come. You don't get a book when your child is born that says this is how you do it. You're kind of fumbling your way through. So, I look at my parents. I look, they did their best. They were fantastic and they tried their best. Yeah, maybe they got things wrong, but who doesn't? But I can't blame them for stupid decisions. Oh, my stupid decisions are because I'm insecure because of my parent, blah, blah, blah. No, my stupid decisions are my stupid decisions.
yeah,
No one else's, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Um, I wanted to talk about martial arts because um, a lot of our friendship was based around that. And I
And
want,
you know what?
go on.
I can recall how we went to the same primary school together and then we went to the same secondary school together.
Yeah,
And we knew each other. We weren't, we never had any disagreements. We had similar friendship groups, but we always got on well. But we didn't really talk, did we? We were like, if someone said to me, Gina Alice, yeah, really nice bloke. Yeah, so like acquaintances, really.
yeah.
But no problems with each other. And then I remember you come around my house, and I was like, I'm going to go and do capoeira, right? Do you remember?
No, I remember going to Capoeira, but I don't remember coming around your house.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, yeah, I think who were you? You were with Lee Keens at the time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, I'm going to go. I've been doing this martial art. I've been doing some Shaolin Kung Fu and stuff. But I'm going to give this capoeira a go. And you were like, oh, I've heard about us. Look really cool. And that's when we just started training.
Yeah, but I remember I remember I was too scared to go, but you said no, you're coming.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
there now. Like we're in the car, and I'm like, what? Yeah, that's where we're going. And that was
But
kind of,
do you know why I told you we were coming? Because I was scared. So
oh
I wanted
right,
you there to hold
really?
my hand. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
was
was
like, well,
terrified.
I was as well because like I trained all the time, but I'd always trained privately, as you recall, right? I didn't like groups, and I would like go to these different things, but I would go and I would be like one to one. It was like a safety net for me.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, oh, I really want to try this capoeira, but I can't go. And then you were like, I'm interested. I'm like, we're going now. And but I was like, we're going now because you're coming with me.
Yeah, I remember your dad driving us to there, and I was like, "Oh no!" I just wanted to get out of the car and run home.
Yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah,
terrified. Yeah, and he
yeah.
he he made us do cartwheels on our forearms, and I
Cartwheels
was
on our
like, "What?"
forearms, one-handed cartwheels, all that kind of stuff. And do you remember it was the only martial art class where he would turn the heaters up, and the other martial art classes had the doors open to let the door in. He
Yeah,
would
yeah,
do the opposite, right?
yeah. Why do you think you started martial arts? Why do you love it so much? Because you started with
So,
karate when you were a kid, didn't you?
yeah, I started when I was like probably like six, and I
Really?
was yeah, I was young. Yeah, I was like barely out. I was maybe even younger. I was like five, and I remember I'd watch the Karate Kid, and I think it was twofold. I think it was actually twofold. I was an insecure, shy, and quite scared human being, which all kids are really. When you look at it, they're kids. They know no different. But also, you had that Miyagi role model, right? That person who was going to guide you. So I was like probably seeking two things. But as time went on, I just got more and more insecure and was looking for that role model, right? Because like um yeah, I had, you know, but yeah, so I was in like you say, sometimes there's aggression in the household. Then I was at school and there was a lot of aggression at school. I was quite shy, I was quite quiet, I was getting beaten
Yeah,
up at
and then
school.
you got your jaw broken, didn't you?
I got my jaw broken
That
in
changed it for you, didn't it?
yeah,
I
I was
remember
had
you
it, my
changed
jaw.
after that.
Yeah, I had my jaw broken when
It's outside the
I
Opera
was
House.
yeah, I was 15 years old, and
Yeah.
some guy had busted my jaw, and like my face was like it ballooned up, and my jaw was over here.
Oh,
And you're 15, you're not really like you're not a man, are you? You like to think you are, but you're not. And I was like, fuck, I'm terrified. Like I was terrified. I didn't go out after. And it was my it was my first time I'd got into the opera house, right? I hadn't been ID'd. I'd got in, I was like looking, there's like amazing looking women everywhere. I'm like, oh, I've landed, right? And then I'll get outside, I'm boom. And this guy basically broke my jaw. And um but that it wasn't that painful. I'll be honest with you, Alistair. It wasn't my body had been used to being hit, so it wasn't that bad actually. But it was quite scary. And like in my head, I was like, "Fuck!" There's like a shitload of aggression around me. It's not at school, There's aggression around me everywhere. I'm like, "Fuck!" I need to sort of deal with this shit. So look, maybe logically, illogically, I was like, I'm going to get really good at dealing with violence and become very good at violence. Like, I'm going to become accustomed to this now. I'm going to become. So I became very like one track minded on like, I hate to say it because it sounds crude now, but I was like, I'm going to fuck people up. If people want it now, I'm gonna really fuck them up.
yeah,
And so that was like my mindset. So, and as you remember, you remember me in my I was doing everything. Like I was doing kung fu, I was doing kyokushin karate, I was doing krav maga, I was doing like there wasn't anything I wasn't doing. I was going up to London one week,
yeah,
then I was going up to so and so the next week, and I was going to this one this week. I was doing everything,
yeah. You
and
were.
like
Yeah,
yeah, like there was no end, and I would
yeah,
take part in anything. Like oh, there's a you've never done this fight style.
yeah.
I'll go there, and I'll
I
fight
remember
people.
when you took us up to the, I think it was the Kyokushin Club in London, and you didn't even have a
Yeah,
belt, and you took their black belt to the floor, remember? And they were like,
yeah, yeah,
your first go.
yeah, yeah. But also within that, it was such, hate to say it, it was like it was a beautiful journey. Really like had some really good moments. I learned a lot about myself, but I've become the thing to a degree that I didn't want to be. Like the
Yeah,
thing that I wanted to avoid, I'd become very egotistical.
I
So all I
know.
talk about is fighting.
Yeah.
I would I would seek violence. I would want violence. I would, which now looking back, I'm a father now, and I train other people. I'm like, there's no,
I saw that
it's not a
happening.
good,
I saw that happen in you. Yeah.
you know.
But I knew you would come back out of it. I knew it was temporary because I I remember
It wasn't in my heart, was it? It wasn't in my heart. It wasn't who I
exactly.
really
And
was.
the teacher that was teaching you how to fight, he was very good at it, and he he,
Extremely good.
yeah, and he was old school, and we looked up to him, you know,
Mm,
and we were both lost in a way as well. And let's face it, he was an incredible teacher,
oh, fantastic.
and
I,
that
I still, I thought I've trained with the best in the world. I would say he's been like one of the biggest influences. You
I
know,
agree. Yeah, I do
there's,
believe overall that a hugely positive influence on you and me
yeah,
as well. Um,
yeah.
I think it was his
Because if
style
you
of
look,
teaching.
it started you on your journey. You're here
Yeah.
now, right? We're having this
Yeah,
conversation.
do you remember? Like I don't think I've ever told you this, but you used to take me along, right, to practice on me. Did you ever wonder why I used to go?
Um, I, I I probably didn't, if I'm honest, but I now I know you and I understand that you wanted to learn about yourself. Like everything's learning about yourself and other people, essentially.
No, it's none of that. I went because I wanted to spend time with you.
Oh, oh, mate, it's so sweet. But
I
and
did.
now,
I got my ass kicked in multiple times just because I wanted to be spend time with you. I did, yeah.
but you there was some like times then, and I look back on that time fondly. There were times I think we were quite deep thinkers, right? I remember like going up to everyone else when it was snowing and stuff.
Yeah,
Do you
we were
remember we'd
training. Yeah.
go,
We had
but
20 kilo vests on, weren't we?
on
Falling
and
over.
going up to Hainsbury Head,
Yeah.
yeah, and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and we would
Yeah.
just talk for hours, right? And
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember we used to talk for hours because we used to be training for hours. I remember, when I went to university, I was completely lost. I shouldn't have even been at university, right? I mean, you knew
no,
me before I went. I wasn't academic at
no,
all,
well, you know,
but I was, I don't know. I personally, I think that I went to university because I was encouraged to do that by my family, but I didn't actually want to go. But when I got my head kicked in, um, it changed my life completely. And I think, I said this to you when I came back from London. I think that had you not started taking me training, I would be dead.
mm, mm. Yeah, but you, I appreciate the sentiment, but also you probably wouldn't be because you knew you needed to seek something. Do you
But
see what I mean? So,
yeah,
so maybe I facilitated that in some way, but at the same time, you would have found something else. You would have, because of the nature of your like being, you would have sought something. And so,
don't know, mate. Because if you look back here, I don't think so. Because it was 2004, so I got my head kicked in 2000,
how
and
old were we? 20.
23, 22. And
Right.
I was I was lost. My whole personality changed just from the traumatic brain injury. And I remember a few years later, I got bought my first house with my brother. And
Mm,
that was when I hit rock bottom because of how I was being treated. I was being severely bullied, right?
mm,
And I think we had just started training, and I went into, I think, oh yeah, I remember now. I got made redundant. Do you remember?
right.
And I went into like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
deep depression.
Mm.
And I remember laying in bed just for hours, just staring at the
I
ceiling.
do recall. I
And
do
you
recall because you were on
and you
medication, weren't you?
that's right, yeah. I was on citalopram, that garbage
Mm,
that they hand out like Skittles. And I remember it numbed me. It couldn't make me feel good or bad. And but it wasn't a cure or a solution or anything. And I could see how it was actually doing more harm than good. But I remember you knocked on my door, you'd ring my buzzer and go, we're going training. And I'm like, no, I'm in bed. You go, well, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And then you'd hang up and
mm.
I'd be like, okay. And then we would
Oh,
end up
words. Yeah,
and
yeah, I
and
know.
then we would end up running up across the beach, getting to the top of Hangsbury Head, vomiting,
Mm,
drinking some more, and then going for a run. And then we'd be in the pub. And we did that every day for 3 months, and I was
yeah,
cured.
yeah.
You
Mm.
you brought me out of it by training me, and then we would just go to the pub and have fun like two
Do you
mates.
remember we would spar with the masks and the masks were broken, but
Yeah,
and they
I
weren't
know.
designed to
I've still got
break.
the lump here to prove it.
But like because we were just sparring that much, they were like overused, weren't they? It was like
Yeah, that I
every
remember. I
day.
remember our teacher said, "Are you getting headaches?" And we were like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Then you're hitting each other too hard." We
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were smacking each other. Do you remember?
CTE, yeah, CTE.
What's
That's
CTE? What's that?
so CTE is like pro fighters and it's just concussive sparring. It's been proved now that you think like boxers back in the day and MMA guys and Thai boxers when they were and like when we were going to gyms, the sparring was so hard that you're actually sparring like you're on a professional fight show and then not realizing the amount of damage that's doing to your brain. Now training has changed so much in that it's almost like touch
Yeah,
sparring and stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and now it's
In a way, I really thank you for that. I remember the first time you punched me in the face, and I remember everything started to go black. And in that moment, that's the first time I'd ever been punched properly in the face, and it completely destroyed my ego,
mm,
really, in such a powerful, good way, you know. And then I remember
I
you
think
said,
well I
and
think
then
it
I
does
remember
to
you said,
everyone.
I remember you said, hit me. You made me hit you back, and
Mm,
I remember I need you in the face. Do you remember?
mm.
And that was the first time I'd ever,
You'd hit back, right? I remember
yeah,
you were like shocked
yeah.
because you never
You
yeah,
helped me bring back the fight in me. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. But also I look back at that and we were like fighting and whatnot. And then I went into like, as time went on, I progressed martially. So I was like doing quite well in different things. Then I started winning certain accolades and stuff, which are nonsense, by the way. They are nonsense. Like it doesn't actually mean anything. And then I went into like pro fighting, then I went into coaching in Vietnam and da 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 da. But really what it taught me is everything like the journey that I've been on is like I was scared here. So at the very beginning I was scared. At the very end I was scared of who I'd become.
Yeah.
So I wasn't scared of violence anymore. I was scared of how
Yeah, because
aggressive
you'd
I
gotten
was.
to such a high level that you knew that
Well,
you were like essentially a human weapon, right?
it not not even that. It was just I was like I wasn't a nice person with it, right?
Yeah.
So if you know, like like let's go back to my love. My first love was that Karate Kid, right? You look at like the the the, the Miyagi character. He was peaceful. He's loving. Da da da. I was like so far away from that. I was so egotistical, like trophies, da da da. You know, fighting like full contact K1, but there's another picture. I've won another fight. Oh, I'm Vietnam now. Da, 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 da. Where's all like that? Where's all like the niceness gone?
The
It was
traditional
all if
humility.
yeah. Where was my ego was out of control. I was
Yeah.
insane. I was like you know, it was just, you know, you couldn't have a conversation with me without it being about fighting. It's ridiculous. Like,
I know,
oh,
yeah.
you know, like, but it's ridiculous. Like, oh, I've got a problem, blah blah blah, with my life. Well, let's put the gloves on. But it doesn't solve anything, you know.
I remember, yeah,
It
that
doesn't.
was like your slogan, wasn't it? Just put the gloves on. Yeah.
Just
But
put the
but
gloves
but
on.
I always admired your passion, you know. You got to look at it in that way as well. You were hugely passionate.
Yeah, and I never swayed from it. I never
Mm.
swayed from it. I don't get me wrong. I did stupid things, like I would, you know, I know, you know, to identify that when I had a drink, I wasn't a nice person. I shouldn't drink. Drinking doesn't suit me. It does suit other people, but drinking doesn't suit me. I'm not a nice person when I drink, cause a lot of pain and destruction. So once I identified that, and that's a lot to do with my ego. Why? Because when I was drinking, it could facilitate um my my
It highlights the stuff that you ignore in
yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah. So it really, even when like I was drunk, what would happen? I would be aggressive, or I'd be like, what all it really highlighted. So I was very insecure. Like I was still insecure. All this training and all this stuff, I really like. I was the only way I could describe it, and someone summed it up for me. Like I'd gone, like spoke to people and stuff. I was looking, I was looking down on people from the gutter. So I was like, I was like this insecure, egotistical, and I know the two aren't are like polar opposites, but really deep inside, I'm looking down, like back to what you said at the beginning. You're looking at people with contempt, but it's because you feel in your heart less than, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Used to.
truth, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I used to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm like relaying is like, however, like well I'd got on in violence and stuff, and it is violence. Like, you know, don't care what anyone says, it is violence. Like, oh, it's a sport, it's this, it's that, in this respect. Yeah, if you get the right teacher, it is. But you can also that teacher, which to be fair, all my teachers were very good, would keep me in line. But at the end of the day, it didn't solve the problem of who I was as a person. I was quite an insecure person, so I needed to identify that. So coming out of like bad relationships, kind of removing myself from fighting, really looking at myself, I really looked and I was like, my ego's a problem. My ego's a problem. I'm putting what I want before other people, or you know, and just so violence, things like that. It was more, if you think about violence for what it is, and fighting and all of that sort of
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
It's fear based,
Yeah.
because if you need to be violent, you're actually hiding behind something. You know. And I was always kind of scared I'd get called out. You know, like it'd be like you're not what you think you are. You're not what you're trying to perceive. And now I'm a father. I train people. I do that, and I enjoy it. It's really good. I love it. But I see young, especially young men now, Alistair, they're lying to themselves. So I
Re-
train a lot of young fighters and stuff, and it's all ego based. I say,
Really?
look, I've been, yeah, of course, and I say I've been there. I've been there. You're afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Be honest about it.
Yeah, right. I remember I thought, I always thought that one of the reasons I liked you so much is was your honesty because I remember you said in front of when we were practicing in the barn with the teacher, he used to help us expose why we felt the way we did. And I remember we were speaking about fear because we were talking about the animals. You remember the animals? That was something that
Mm,
that really helped me. I don't know if you know how much that really helped me doing
mm,
the animal stuff. It really, really helped me. And I remember when we were talking about the tiger, you said that before you go in a ring to fight, you find it difficult to put your gloves on because your hands are shaking so much.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember you said it's because you were afraid, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that.
Mm,
I just thought you loved fighting, but
mm,
you were fighting for something.
mm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I think that's true of everyone, isn't it? I think if you look, if you
No,
whatever
no, no,
you,
Steve, no. This is why you're so unique, is that people don't know how to fight. People have lost their fight. This is why you're so unique, because you've got that passion to fight.
but I think whatever you portray yourself as. So if you recall, I hate to say it because it sounds egotistical, because it's, but I was like, people be like, I don't want to spoil Steve. It's
Yeah.
always 100%. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah, I do.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was always like, and like, it was always like intense or whatever. Even my classes, if you recall, my classes were
Y-
intense. Like when I
Yeah.
started teaching, they
Yeah,
were
I
like,
know. Do you remember
people
kicking me in
would,
the nuts in front of 80 people?
I do. I can never be sorry enough for that. But that was fear based. That was actually fear.
Yeah.
But like, I remember people dropping out. Like they would come to the class and
It was too
I would
intense
have,
for them. Yeah.
yeah. And um, but I think like, so for example, I would portray that I was not afraid, but I was really afraid. I would, it's like people who portray that they don't care. They
Yeah.
really care.
I want to say
You
something
know,
interesting. Yeah. I want to say,
you know,
sorry to interrupt. There is a little bit of a delay, so I keep missing you
that's right.
from my end, the speaker, I think. I wanted to say about to stay on the topic of violence, right? Is do you remember it school, primary school? I was bullied,
Mm, right. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was.
but
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
but I didn't know I was bullied, right?
I know.
And I only figured it out last year or the year before. I think it might have been last year that I was taught that violence was how you express love.
Mm, right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's an expression, I
So I used
guess.
to go to school and I used to punch your brother. I used to punch Anthony, and I really liked him. I remember I used to punch a guy called Michael. I really liked him. Do
Mhm.
you understand? It's really,
Yeah,
really odd.
yeah. Warped logic there, isn't there? Because
Yeah. And
it's
then
what you put. Yeah, but it's custom, isn't it? What you're accustomed to.
yeah, and then when when I go home, I would get a terrible beating. And I remember one day, I think it was as it must have been 11 years old, still really vulnerable kid. The headmaster just came into the middle of class and said, "Yeah, we're exposing Alistair today for being the bully." And I was like, and it was one of the most traumatic days of my life because I was mates with Brendan back then, and he was just as bad, but he took the day off that day and he got away with it. And it was the
Brendan knew
most,
what was coming.
yeah, right. He must have. And I it was one of the most traumatic days of my life because all those people who I thought were my friends turned around and said, "Yeah, he punches me every day." And I'm like, I genuinely thought, genuinely believed that's because I love you.
But also as well, how like that's a fucked up situation. Is like because like that would never happen nowadays. Like everything's changed now. Like you would never get a teacher exposing like a 9, 10-year-old boy and going, "This is the bad guy." It would be like so handled insensitively. Like it's
Yeah.
like actually like we'll have Alistair. You need to understand. Punishing people isn't good. We're going to talk to your parents. It's not how we do things here. It, you look at our school. It had its ups and its downs, but the way things were done back in those days, it's just a different world now. Like I think in a way people now understand that. I think it, and this is my opinion. So it's a I think where there's more like understanding of mental health and things like that, I think it's a good thing. But I also think like everything, there's a flip and a dark side. So I think like I said to you, right? Or like we spoke about earlier, everyone has good and hard times. If you put a load of numbers on, yeah, like next to it or letters, and it's like it almost becomes the excuse, right?
Yeah. I
It
totally agree.
becomes
Yeah, I call it
you know,
the collective asylum because they've run out of room to put people in asylums. So just give them four letters. ADHD, OCD, PTSD, and
exactly
so
right.
on.
So I can't do that because of my. You can't. You found your reason. You just can't be asked. Like, suck it up, train, or go on your journey. Pursue what you want to pursue. If it gets hard, that's part of it. It's probably the best part because at the other end of that, you'll learn about yourself, right? You'll
Yeah,
learn something. And but I think nowadays it's good that there's this identification of understanding, trying to help other people, but I think it's gone too far. It's gone the other way where it's actually enable people to not pursue, to not fight. Like that's a good word for it, is to not fight, right? It's to go, yeah, I can't do it. And you see it, it's like become an excuse. Like I
yeah,
can't, you know,
yeah,
I can't get up and I can't do the podcast, Alistair. Why? Because I'm feeling like low.
yeah.
No,
That's
I
yeah,
said I'd do a podcast with you. I said at this time I would do a podcast. I said to myself every night, I'm going to train tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock and then we're going to teach my first. I said it. I need to be accountable to myself. Whatever like prescribed problem there is in my life, whatever I get told is wrong with me, and it's someone telling me. It's not what it's a few letters or something that have been told to me. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true or it's irreversible because you can reverse most things. I think if you have a if you have a bad chest or an infection, you can rest, you can get stronger. Why can't you do that with the brain? Why can't you do that with the mind? Why can't you actually look at yourself and go, yes, I'm not that person anymore. I want to
yeah,
change. I want to be this. I want to
yeah,
train it, whatever.
yeah,
Now I train very differently. I train like the context in which I train isn't to train to hurt people. The training now for me is like an expression. It's like I can get fitter this way. I can learn stuff about my body, and learning stuff about my body, I learn stuff about my mind, like you know what I mean. But I look back at those days and it was a harder environment, but it didn't raise people to give up. And now you're being raised in an environment people want you to give up, and they've given you the excuse
yeah.
now.
I think it's less about giving up and more about relying too much on others, like especially the government, to do everything for us. And
Exactly.
that's where people have stopped fighting. They've stopped fighting for what they love, right? And that's the
Mm.
true fight, right? That's why my podcast is called Sacred Rainbow Warrior because it's taken me several years to understand what it means to fight again, to fight for what you love,
Yeah.
right? Um because I had my passions taken away from me so much so that I'd forgotten what passion felt like, what my
Who
joy.
does nowadays? I talk to
Exactly.
so many people and they're passionless. There is no
Yeah.
passion. Their
Yeah.
life is monotonous. And I'm like, for example, Alice, I haven't watched telly in, oh, it's got to be the 14 years.
Wow.
I've yeah, because when I'm not doing my passions, I'm sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I think that's really rare. I think that's really rare too.
you
Um,
know.
because how many hours do you train on average a day?
Oh, it's less now, but probably I teach probably about 8 hours a day. So I train people about 8 hours. It can be 8 to 10. It can vary. Some days less, but I probably do that 7 days a week, pretty
And
much.
how has your martial journey changed? I'm really interested in how you've developed as a fighter because when we first started, it was just about knocking the shit out of each other, wasn't it? And then it became
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about technique and so much more. And you
It's not
trained with
even.
so many different amazing teachers from all over the world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It's not even about that now. It's not even. It's about training other people. So it's come full circle.
Yeah.
So I've got a guy that I train now. He's doing really well in K1. He's like he's like had I think he's had like 6 fights, lost two, won four, and he's like he's a lovely guy. He's a very sweet guy. He's not like I was when I was younger. He's like a very sort of shy and introvert guy, but also not at all aggressive. Like it's like it's nice to see. But now he's through his training. I can understand. I can see like he's like 21. So it's like it's nice to see other people getting the best from training, but not going down that dark road of being like aggressive with it. He's a really nice guy, and he's just become physically better, mentally better, and more confident with it. And like he said to me, I said to him like, well, "Why do you want to train?" He's like, I want to learn how to defend myself, I want to fight and stuff." And he had aspirations, and he goes, "But also, I don't want." I just don't want to be the nice guy that gets manipulated. And now he's not that anymore,
Yeah.
right? But he's not a bully either. He's just a nice
Yeah.
guy
Yeah,
who's got more confidence.
that's what martial arts did for me because, I was afraid, really afraid of just walking around on the streets and it gave me the
I think we
confidence.
all are, Alistair.
Yeah, 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 to some degree. But I remember the day that you and I changed that mindset where we trained so hard for so many years and we were physically, young and really fit. And I remember we said to each other, like, I feel really like confident now. And I think, what it taught me was that I don't need to fight anymore. Do you know what I mean? Physically, like I had no
Mm,
fear of fighting because I was taught
mm,
how to not fight by learning how to fight. Like
mm,
that was what martial arts taught me. Um,
mm,
but I realized that when I stopped martial arts and I went because I gave up everything for the spiritual journey to
mm.
understand everything. What I learned um, from from stopping fighting is that I didn't have a reason to fight and I was actually fighting myself, and that's why I was so unhappy.
I completely get that. Like I said, like
Yeah,
why was I aggressive? Why was I like I was? You know, I recall, do you remember when we were at a certain place and a, a group of uh three guys, they were big guys, do you remember? And they'd come to a lesson and they were like, "Oh, we're Marines, we're this, we're that." And
but in South, in which gym?
Winton, Winton, we were in Winton at the time. And
Oh, yeah,
and
they were vicious. Yeah,
my instructor had said to me, "You're dealing with them."
yeah,
It wasn't anything else. And then there was a bench. And it's bad looking back. Like there was a bench of these guys, they probably just wanted to train. But there was a bench of guys like holding their ribs, black eyes, and things like that.
because this guy had picked on them. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'd it was me basically. My instructor said you're dealing with them because they're aggressive, and I was like, okay, I could have. he just said that to me. He didn't say you could have like took them to one side. He said, "Well, you've just lost me three students. You did. You could have shown them like something. You could have taught them, but you decided in your infinite wisdom to put the gloves on. You know, put the gloves on, and because they were like they were. So I think sometimes as well, but it wasn't because I felt an immediate threat. They'd come in, they were very boisterous and very like, well, look. And I was like, right, I'm gonna iron you out. I'm gonna show you one after another, blah blah blah, sparring and stuff. But that's just a reflection of who I was at that time. Like now, I have students, and you know, accidentally they'll hurt me. They do, you know, they're learning. Younger me would have been like, what was that? You know, now I'm like, you're learning, you know, like you can't, you know, like it's bad. It's terrible, really. I look back as like lunatic, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Um,
Yeah, I remember. I remember. Yeah, you. I mean, it's funny to laugh about it now, but you only had, on the dial of violence, you had 0 or 10. There's no in
yeah, there's
between,
no, I mean,
and
it's
but
awful.
everybody knew that. Everybody knew that,
I
and
had no social skills. I had no skills like
I
I
wouldn't
had,
say that. I think people loved you
but but yeah, but I had no like
outside of
I had
fighting.
no
You mean?
yeah, I had no switch off of like this guy's just hurt me, right? Or he's just hurt me. He probably didn't mean to. It was like training, or this guy's just hurt me. With all the training I've done, I could easily restrain him. No, no, he's hurt me. No, he hasn't. He's dented my ego.
Yeah.
Did I have to do that? Do you know what I mean? Like I look back, it's a bit of a dickhead. You know. Well, really, you have to look back. You have to reflect. A
Yeah,
bit of
but
a
but but
bully.
but you don't have to look back at it with that it was bad because at the
No,
end of
it's just part of learning, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
part
yeah,
of learning. I
yeah.
probably had to be.
It was like you said, I can't drink alcohol. Another side of me just used to. I don't drink anymore, and I'm glad. But there was like this part of me that come out, and it was like I know exactly how to destroy you in just a few
Yeah,
words.
and it's malicious, isn't it? It's malicious intent. And
Yeah,
but yours was with your mouth. Mine was unfortunately with my fists. You know,
yeah,
and I
yeah, yeah,
look
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. But I think if you think about it, Steve, I think words are more hurtful.
Well, I think whatever it is, if it, with your mouth or with your, who's really the hurt one?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah, because
if you have to be that um,
mm,
malicious or you have those bad intentions, you have bad
yeah,
intentions. I don't know about you, Alistair, but well, I do know about you, but when I do something and I feel bad, like I feel it in my soul, like I've hurt someone. No, I've hurt someone.
yeah, I can't do
That's
that anymore.
that
Yeah. Mm.
that's not something that sits right with me, and I have to make an amends for that.
Yeah.
Even training, like a lot of people, like even Bill, you know, Bill who used to train with us and stuff. He's like, you've changed so much. Like you used to hurt people and never a sorry. Now, now I'm like, you know, if I demonstrate, I'm very sorry. Da 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 da. And I think like I lacked a few things. I lacked a few things, but I lacked a few things because it was my fear. I was scared. I was still scared. Now I'm not. Now I'm not. I'm. You know, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't like to walk out the house and have 10 guys with. But I know that's not the reality. The reality is, you know, you get what you receive. If you're a nice guy, it was no circumstances, right? It was no shock when I would get into a fight when I'm there scowling at people drunk. What am I giving out? I'm not giving out I'm friendly, am I? And like attracts like.
Yeah.
It does. Like attracts like, right?
Yeah.
When I got involved with that bad woman, like attracts like. I'm wanting, I'm trying to take from people. I got what I wanted in return. Like attracts like.
Yeah.
Now my life is much happier. I'm I've got a nice life. I've got lovely, loving kids. I've got people around me. I've got, when we see each other, how much happier are we and less insecure and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But
Because
yeah,
like attracts like.
yeah. And I'd say my one of my most significant journeys in my life from a very young age has been the journey of violence. And violence followed me for a very long time. And it wasn't until I started practicing martial arts that I stopped getting into fights. I think I got into one fight, and it wasn't like I was seeking them; they were finding me. I never went and
Mm.
sought fights. Like that kid from Winton who punched me in the mouth for no reason. I was 14, and then I
Mm.
got hit over the back of the head up the road by some stranger, and then what happened at uni, getting my head kicked in, and so on, and
Yeah.
it's such a horrendous energy getting in a fight. It's so
Oh, it's
traumatic.
disgusting.
Yeah,
It's
especially seeing
disgusting.
someone get
No,
hurt.
and no one wins. No one wins. And if you
No,
look, those guys that were in McDonald's, right? They're probably lovely guys when they're not drunk, when they're not on drink, you
yeah,
know. And
and
that's the thing. Like
it
it's like
comes.
it's like oh, you've hit someone, but you don't, and I know you've hit someone, but that person could be like, I can't go out for 3 or 4 weeks or even longer, or, or they become super aggressive. You don't know, like, what just the damage of hitting someone physically. Physically, it does damage, but mentally, it does far more damage.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Exactly. And this guy was, he was really egotistical. And, in my journey, those are always the most dangerous people, the ones that are trying to prove a point just so they can look good in front of other people, so they can make themselves feel better. And
mm,
and and those are the most destructive ones. That I witnessed it so many times in the clubs and stuff where I had been challenged in really strange ways. And I always found it really traumatic. And um, like I said, with my spiritual journey, I had to give up everything. And um, I learned that, we were talking about love and light earlier in the spiritual community. They also talk a lot about oneness, and you can't fully understand what oneness means until you understand how you treat others and how you treat yourself. And oneness truly is everybody is just another version of you, but a mirror. And so when you hurt someone, even when you say horrible things, like like if you said something horrible to your girlfriend or your daughter or your mother,
mm.
you regret it. And
You
that's
hurt
that's
yourself,
how
don't you?
yeah, exactly. And that's how oneness works. It's like you're shouting at a mirror or you're punching a
Mm,
mirror. You end up punching yourself,
mm, yeah.
and it took me a long time to to learn what it means to fight, and it's to fight for your dreams, to fight for your heart, and I've always wondered for you, because we're talking about your martial arts journey, but how everything must have changed for you when you became a father, because you had something else to fight for.
Flip reversed. So not only that, if you probably don't recall, but yeah, like Millie's 13 now.
Wow.
Um, yeah. But do you recall she was very ill? She actually died. So when she was born, she was very premature and she was like 3 pounds and she had died in an incubator, and it was and I remember you recalled there's something switched off in you now. I was teaching at Glenn's and something had changed in me. I'd become very,
Yeah.
I suppose this is so, but I realized then, I think,
Right.
so,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, um, like as you recall, once I had a child, I was obsessed. But I also learned that, yeah, so Millie is like, and the nurses, I can never be grateful enough that, they brought back to life. But I realized, like, how old was I? I was like 20, I was like 28 when Millie was. that's when I started realizing there's more to life than kicking the shit out of people. I hate to say it like that, but like in my head, it was like, you know, and also why did I do all that training? Because I wanted to be in control, right? So I wanted to be in control. If someone was to be aggressive or da, 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 I thought that was my answer to controlling things. Then
Mm,
there was something that happened that was completely out of my control.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like it was out of my control. I had no say if my daughter was going to be fine and stuff. Um, and I also looked at human beings very differently. Like human beings were human beings. They weren't bullies. They weren't my enemies. They weren't my aggressors. They were, someone's daughter. They were someone's son. They were someone's father, mother, da da da. So I really started to change them. Like change, but also like not negatively, but not overly positively as well. Like I was like I guess I was kind of hurt. I was like, oh, so like what could I have done to change that? But I couldn't do anything. I mean, that wasn't. Um. So yeah, yeah. So as a father, being a father, it changes everything because you want to be a good father as well. And don't get me wrong, I haven't got everything right in like the journey of fatherhood, but I don't want to be. I certainly don't want to be like, oh, saying to my daughter, oh, kicks off and all that. That was my reality once upon a time, and it's not my reality now. My reality is I'm a father. I want my kids to do well. And don't get me wrong; they'll go on their own journeys. And I think that's what part of being a father is realizing you come to a certain place. Your child's going to come to a certain place. Yeah, you can guide, but you're not going to orchestrate their lives. They're going to do that themselves. So, and even if you don't agree with the way they do that, you have no say in that. There's probably like with your journey, there's probably the ones closest to you probably been the ones that have shown the most resistance, but they have no say in what you do. Like, don't get me wrong, there's no family member that was like, "Oh, brilliant, Steve, well done. You go into another fight. You go into this. You go into that."
yeah, yeah. I think that's where space was created between our friendship, wasn't it? We
What?
you became distant after that. I didn't realize before
Yeah,
the end. I didn't know that.
yeah. I'm sure I told you. I think I told you at the gym. I said like, look, I nearly lost Millie,
Yeah,
and
I can imagine you did tell me, and I think for someone like me at the time to understand and feel that pain, I don't think was possible for someone like me at that time. I was so
no.
disassociated. I probably just went,
But
yeah, okay.
but to be fair to you, I didn't understand it. So you can't it's not, and it's not something to be understood. It just, in fact, it was once again dark things. They seemed dark at the time. Like the failed relationship with the um with the woman in Norway. Let's take that for an example. It seemed like a very dark thing at the time, but it made me look at my ego, me just getting what I wanted. My daughter not, uh, you know, like dying birth, then coming back. That made me look at human beings in a more like empathetic light. But and it made me disassociate. It made me reflect on the way I treated others. So I think although in any journey there's going to be really, really dark times. There is those dark times. There is probably a light at the end of it if you look for it. But you have to look for it, and it goes back to what I said and what we were talking about at the beginning. Is you have to be accountable, because I could easily have gone at the beginning, like for example with the woman, I could have gone, look what she's done to me. Yeah, but what did I do to myself? Okay, I could have easily gone, well, it's not fair that Millie's like premature, blah, 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 blah. But look at all the good things, the nurses. Look at, and now she's growing up, she's fine, da, da, da. But also, like, I realized that some things are out of my control. I don't have to be a control freak all the time. I don't have to be the one who's like, I have to train because this, that, and the other, and I want to control things, make sure all my friends are so blah blah blah. Some things are out of your control. So although in whatever journey you're in, and I'm sure with like your plant-based stuff, and you've told me about it, there's been some really dark periods, but always you will find there is light at the end of those periods, and you'll probably learn. You actually, I personally believe, if you're not in those dark periods or those things that are uncomfortable, you're not growing at all. You're not. You're
Yeah,
not
exactly. I
challenging
mean, the
yourself.
it's like becoming a diamond, you know, the shaman's journey is you undergo so much pressure that you become a diamond, right?
Mm,
And that's, you know, I would love to, you know, I can't tell you about my journey in it would take me weeks. That's why I'm writing about it, right? But I would, you know, I
mm,
want you to be one of the first people that read so you can we can then talk about it and you go, oh wow, you did this. And that's why, you know, I'm not just I'm not just interested in your emotional journey. I'm actually in you know, just we did a lot of martial arts together, right? And even though it
mm,
wasn't my passion, I still learned to have passion about it by
mm.
learning what I enjoyed within it. Like
Like vicariously learning about it, like almost like it was my life, but you were part of that, right? So it was like, yeah,
yeah,
vicarious learning.
exactly. Like we used to joke about how I was like your crash test dummy, you know,
Mm,
and because my pain threshold was so high, you remember?
yeah, it's huge. Yeah,
Do
no
you,
one else was on it,
yeah,
were they? So
yeah. Do you remember
that's
when
kind of fun.
do you remember when Liam won his fight and we were out and I said, "Oh, punch me with the same punch that you knocked him out with." Do you remember that?
Yeah, and you took it. Yeah,
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 and I was
yeah.
like,
And that was a pro fighter. He was at the top of his
yeah,
game
I
in the
know. And
country.
but that's how numb I was.
Mm, yeah.
That's how it expressed itself through my body. That's how numb I was to my heart.
I do look back at like the amount of training and the amount of stuff I did, and you know why I did it, and it was like insecurity, but I did love it. I did love, it's probably is still a bit of me,
Well,
there's probably
there was a good brotherhood there, wasn't there? We met some really lovely guys. Like you remember Teddy?
amazing people, a lovely guy, and he passed away. Did you know that? No, yeah, he killed himself, Alistair. Yeah, he killed himself while I was in just coming back from Vietnam, or while I was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had problems, and like like that, and that's what I mean. Like, like training is like it's more. I think it's you meet young people now, and the labels and the things like that.
I didn't know that he died, mate.
Yeah, he killed himself.
You know, the last time I saw him was in the Sovereign Centre in Boscombe. He was with some guy, and you know, he's such a big guy, right? He's big black guy, right? Really muscly. And he ran over to me, and I was like, "Whoa, who the fuck's this running towards me?" And he goes, "This is this guy I was telling you about. This is Alistair." And I was like, "What?
Mm.
You're the amazing one."
He was such. Do you know what? He made everyone feel special, right? He was
Yeah, but
so
he was an
nice.
incredible person, and
Oh, he's a
he's there
great fighter.
telling people
Great.
about me.
Yeah, he was, but he was so nice to everyone, and he made everyone feel special. I just wonder, did he know how special he was? It's a
He was
shame.
he. Of course, it's a shame, but I could see, you know, the way he
He was in
fought.
pain.
Yeah, but
He was in pain.
he didn't know the way out, and that's you know
And I think that's a journey, and it goes back to what I say is like there's always dark periods, but there will be a light. There will be, and
He is such a
whatever that
nice
life.
guy because I remember, when you went back in the day when we used to go to fight others, there were people like him who were professional fighters that didn't hold back. And I remember
Mm.
he completely kicked my ass, and I was like almost privileged in a way.
Mm. But
And
he was
and
one of
then
those guys who would do it, who would then take you to one side and be like, "This is what you need to
yeah,
work
yeah,
on." It was
yeah.
always constructive,
But
wasn't it? And
but I
always
remember
supportive.
but I remember then we started doing the Krav Maga, right? You were teaching there, and he
Mm.
saw what what we were doing, and he goes, "You two are crazy." Do you remember?
Mm.
He used to say, "You two
Mm.
are absolutely crazy." He goes, "I've got nothing but respect for you." He goes, "I could never
Mm.
do that, what you're doing." And I'm like, "But you're like a professional. You're amazing."
Mm.
And he is
Mm.
because he didn't see himself. He didn't
Mm.
know what he was
But a
fighting.
lot of people, it goes back to what we were saying, doesn't it? Like, what have we been saying? Your mask and your shadow, whatever you put out there, it is sometimes it is like it's not a reflection of who you truly are, right? And like he probably he was such a lovely guy. I remember he would always talk to everyone, help them. Strange you mentioned him, right? Strange. Out of everyone.
Well, I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Mm,
When I was talking to you, I didn't know he died.
mm. Yeah, yeah. He's been gone now. He'd done it when I was in Vietnam, so it's been yeah, it's probably been like 4 years, maybe six, something like that. Unbelievable, right? He's and it just I think that's the thing with like training and stuff, whatever journey you're on, be true to your passion. Like just enjoy it. It will get easier, it will get better, but there will be dark and good times, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand the journey. The journey is really challenging. I've thought about, I don't say it lightly, but that's why I'm so honored and grateful for what you did for me because I wanted to kill myself. I knew I never
Mm,
would though, but I used to have
mm.
suicidal thoughts for years, and it was only up until very recently that I managed to get that out of my system because I understood that suicide is a spiritual death. You don't have to physically die, and this is what really
No.
makes me fucking angry, Steve, is that men don't realize that. Women don't realize that.
And
People don't realize that. Suicide is an illusion. It's an illusion of not understanding how spiritual growth works. Because as soon as the ego wants to die, right? So it tells you you need to die. And people, because it's so painful, that part of you that needs to die, that they, you know, how do you spiritually die? I know how to do that, but I didn't know how to do that, and Teddy didn't know how to do that, right?
mm,
People don't know how to spiritually die, and so they choose
I
physical death.
and I think this is why again it goes back to what we're talking about these like diagnosis and things like this. It's a really scary world, and I'm not saying it's not for women, but it's really dark for young men. Like this, it's almost like
I, I
you know,
yeah, I spoke to my partner about this. Women have a different problem. They have they get put in psychiatric wards. They get told they're
mm,
crazy, right?
mm.
And I can tell you exactly why, but I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, men, that's why there are more men
but
that commit suicide
but
because of the difference in the way that we work and the way that we're treated.
I
And
think as well what you said, the earlier thing was martial arts. It wasn't just training. It wasn't just, but it was like it connected me to my body. It connected me to a lot of things, but also it connected me to like my brothers, my friends, and
exactly.
I've got friends for life. And you have a connection there, and connection is what is light, right? Really, connection is light. Whatever
Yeah,
like
yeah.
journey you're on, you can connect in different
It's
ways, and
it's
also
yeah. Yeah,
there's a
it's
landscape for that. And it
yeah,
scares me now when I have these young men that train with me and they split up with a girl or life isn't going how they want it to, and they'll express these like tendencies of like I feel so low. And
yeah,
I'm like, listen, you
yeah,
feel low now. You can use that energy to train harder, to better yourself. You can use it. It is, and it goes back to what I say, it is a fight. You are fighting. So you need to use that energy wisely. You don't, and it's for me in my journey of martial arts, is procrastination versus action. So if you procrastinate about a problem, the problem doesn't dissipate, the problem grows. If you take action,
Yeah.
the problem is eliminated, or
Yeah.
not eliminated, but it's a
Yeah.
problem versus solution,
Totally
right?
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
So for for example, if I'm there and I wake up, I feel so low, I'm going to lie in bed all day and think about how low I feel. I'm not going to get any better. Or
Choose your suffering.
yeah, or even worse, and it goes back to you seeing your therapist. I'm not discouraging people. If it works for them, it works for them. But if I went to a doctor for 10 years because I had a bad toe, they haven't healed my toe physically. I'm not going to stay with that doctor for 10 years. If I go to a doctor to help my mind and I'm going with him with 10 years and I'm getting the same problems, he's not healing my mind. He's probably part of the problem,
Uh,
my
uh,
opinion.
I agree. Everybody I've interviewed, the health service has failed them. It failed me numerous times. It also saved my life, right?
Mm,
But when it comes to mental health, the it's it's out of alignment. It's out of alignment. That's what I'm going to say about it. But what you spoke about, right? Do you lay in bed or do you get up, right? And you taught me that because it's rumination that keeps you stuck in bed,
yeah,
right?
you
But
procrastinate a problem,
yeah,
right?
but what I said is choose your suffering. Do you choose to suffer in bed or do you choose to suffer by exercise, right? And
Mm,
when you're choosing for to love yourself, you choose for exercise, right? In we're talking about martial arts, right? I'm just calling it exercise because it is a form of movement, right? When you choose that movement, you and there's a play on words here, these hidden words in the English language. You exorcise your demons out of your body,
mm.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's been part of my journey is you can choose to stay in bed, right? Like I used
yeah.
to, or you can get up. And again, I'm showing my gratitude to you, Steve, because I didn't want to get out of bed and you
But you
helped me do
did,
that.
you
I
did.
couldn't have done that
But
without you.
this is what I say to young people, right? Is like, but also
You
as
can't do
well,
it on
this
your
is a
own, is
really
what I'm saying, Steve. You can't do it on your own.
yeah, you can't, and you need someone to get you in that place. But also at the same time, you exercise. Let's say you're heartbroken, you split up with the love of your life, you're 20 years old, and you feel like, we've all been there, right? Haven't we? And it's the end of the world, and she's broke my heart, and I'll never get over it. I tell you what, you go and start training, you start hitting the bag. I'm guaranteeing you're going to hit it harder than you've ever hit it. You're going to start doing some chin ups. You're going to do it better because you've got something there. You've got an untapped energy that's going to take you through the roof. You're going to smash it, or you can get that energy, and that energy going back to a fight beats you. You lay in that bed and you're moping and this is, I think, the problem with like mental health is like, no, it's okay to be sad and mope, and no, it's not. Fucking change it. Come on, we'll get out, we'll train, we'll do whatever, we'll go for a walk. No,
Yeah,
not
I
every
get
time
I get what you're
to
saying,
be
right?
good.
Because this is a an edge, isn't it, for people, right? What we're talking about, because and I've been through it from beginning to end. And the whole thing about moping is it is such an edge because is it okay to mope? No, it's not good for your health, right? And but it's if you don't know how to get out of it, that's the problem, right? We're not taught how to get out of it because we have generational, let's just call it generational trauma, right? I mean, there's so much more to it than that, and we can talk about narcissism as well. That the the journey of overcoming yourself, right? Fighting the real fight, right? Instead of fighting yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
overcoming overcoming, and again, I'm going to use the term demons, overcoming your darkness, whatever you want to call it. Over, it's if you've never been initiated and taught how to do that, right? Because that's what's been taken away from our society, the initiating men into being a man, looking after yourself,
Mm.
defending yourself, learning how to treat a woman, learning how to cook for yourself. We didn't have these initiations growing up
No, 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 no,
because
no,
they've all been
no.
taken from us. The tribal initiations, right? And this is what I've had to bring back for myself, Stephen. Why it's I've been a hermit for about since 2019 when I began my spiritual journey because I had to go so deep inside to remember who I am.
Mm,
You know, that
mm,
I had to rebirth myself through initiation, through a spiritual initiation. I didn't learn that from any men in my life or any women in my life.
mm.
I had to learn that through what was in my DNA. It's hard to explain. And the
But you had to go on a journey, right? And that's the thing.
yeah, yeah, and
And
it's the
there's
journey.
dark times. There's
Yeah.
dark times, right? But they end. And normally after that, it's a really like beautiful something where you go, actually, it wasn't that bad. It taught me something.
Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying, but right, my dark journey started the day after I woke up after I got my head kicked in, right?
Mm,
I remember the police officers knocked on my door, right? And they walked into my room and they took one look at me and they were like, and I was like, what is there something on my face? And and then I couldn't move. I remember I had to keep one foot on the floor. I had to sleep with one foot on the floor, otherwise the whole room would spin. And then I went to the doctor on the third day because I couldn't move. And I put a cap on and it was only like 500 yards away. And I walked and nobody saw me. And I'll never forget. It was so traumatic for me. I walked in to this surgery. There was no one in there apart from the secretary, and she was typing like this. She wouldn't even look at me, and she goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "I need to see the doctor." Is it urgent? Yeah. She looked up at me and she went, "I'll get him right away."
mm,
And I looked like the Elephant Man.
mm,
I imagine tennis balls sticking out one side of your face and the other side normal.
mm,
Because I was on the floor and he kicked my hands, my own knuckles into my face because he was kicking me
mm,
for about a minute and a half, right?
mm. We're trying to kill you, isn't he?
Yeah,
Essentially.
yeah, for over nothing, right? And um, the journey I had to go on was so dark. It was so dark that I was like a walking self-destruct button. Nobody wanted to be
Mm,
around me. I was on
mm,
self-destruct. I remember I used to get so drunk. I'd go out on a night out with these really, well-educated, intelligent people I'd never met before, and I'd be kicking off wing mirrors of cars.
mm,
They quickly avoided me, but I was so
mm,
innocent. I was so nice, but I had this
mm,
side of me that was completely on self-destruct. And
mm,
I had no idea what was happening. The doctor said, "Oh, you might think you're going crazy and have a few nightmares." My nightmares only just stopped a few months ago, Steve. Right? So my
mm.
journey has been for 22, 22 years. 22 years of suffering. Most people don't last that long, you know what I mean?
I think everyone, but I think, mm,
It's about not giving up.
yeah, it's
Why
exactly
didn't
right.
I give up? Right. Because I always had this mantra of, because we were talking about not getting up, right? Procrastinating and taking action. Yeah. And for me, it was about, I always had this voice in the back of my head just say, keep going. There's something better, don't give
Yeah.
up. And I got there. I got there.
And
And
there
it,
is something better, isn't there? That's what I mean. There is inevitably
yeah.
something better.
Yeah.
Like whatever period you are in your life, it will get better. But also, it's highs and lows, but be like that. It'll be like that.
Do you need a
When
break?
it's
You're right.
great, I'm just gonna get some water in a second. But when it's like that, when it's high, don't get too high. Don't get encompassed in it. When it's low, don't get encompassed in it. It will get better. It'll just enjoy it. Be in the moment. Look at your feet. It's all right. It'll be okay. It'll get better.
Yeah.
So when it's really high, don't over celebrate. When it's really low, don't over commiserate. It'll be all right.
But I think the challenge for people is when it doesn't get better, you know? That's when men take
Yeah,
their lives, and we're talking about men because I'm interviewing a man,
we're
and
men.
yeah, and we're
We
men,
we
right?
are, that's what we are.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna grab some
Yeah,
water. Is
yeah.
that all right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Was
think that's something that I think like I can tell from talking to you, and I think it's something that's close to my heart. Like now I'm in a position of a trainer. I'm training people and coaching people in different things. And I'm not like I don't want to like pretend to be some bullshit guru, life expert or anything like that. But I can talk from my experience. Like whatever, especially like the case of young men, whatever heartbreak they feel and things like that, it does get better. And maybe it's something that they actually don't realize, but it's something they need at that time.
yeah.
Like there's probably a lesson to be learned.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
I think at that time I needed to learn how to fight, how to defend myself because when I got when I got beaten up, and it wasn't just that one time, but that was the bigger one because it was so cranial that it changed how I saw life, and I became over analytical. You remember I used to over analyze everything,
mm,
and I used to attach to everything. So if somebody told me, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," weeks, months, years later, I'm thinking, "Oh, I wish I hadn't have done that." I
yeah,
used
yeah,
to
yeah.
attach to anything and everything that people would throw at me because I didn't know how to um, be
Let
myself.
go almost let go either as well, right?
Yeah, because we're
I
we're
think,
punished for being ourselves.
yeah, yeah. I think as well, we are, I think you can be so insular. So you can be so inside yourself that it's almost like you're like things like self pity and things like that can be so
Yeah.
overwhelming that you're so inside yourself. Like, do something about, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And it just grows and grows and grows and grows. It goes back to procrastination. And it's kind of selfish behavior. I don't mean it in a nasty way, but if you're so much thinking about the stuff you've done, how's that good to anyone or anyone else? Because you're not thinking in a larger, you're thinking so insular about, oh, I was, you know, like self pity is almost inviting sometimes. It's like it's almost comfortable to be like, for example, you take your example, someone criticizing you, you can hold on to that and hold on to that and hold on to that, right?
Mhm.
But really, someone's criticized you. What do they have a point? If it hurts, they probably have a point
Yeah.
because it resonates, right?
Mm.
Okay, that's good. I can learn from it.
Yeah.
But I'm not learning anything from it if I'm there like, wish I hadn't done that. A year later, I wish
Yeah.
you've done it. You've
Yeah.
done it.
Mm.
Don't let it beat you. You
But
know,
I think
it's
I think this is a really good point because what sets your mindset different from, let me just adjust the camera, but what sets your mindset um different from most men, right? Is that you didn't attach, whereas I did, right? And so what is that process that makes you get up in the morning to not attach? What is it that makes you get up?
what makes me get up.
What makes you choose not to attach to that criticism?
Um, because it isn't who I am. It's just a moment. It's a moment. In that time, it's a choice, isn't it? I don't.
Yeah,
If if I'm a if someone says, "Oh, you're an aggressive bully," and it resonates and it hurts, then it's probably got some truth behind it,
yeah,
right? But then if I just go, oh, an aggressive bully, might as well lie in bed. I'm still an aggressive bully. I'm an aggressive
Shame.
bully
Yeah, you're
lying.
talking about shame. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lying in bed and I'm self pit. Not only is it shame, it's worse than that. I'm feeling sorry for myself now because I'm
Yeah.
an aggressive bully, right? Or I wake up and I go, I'm not going to be an aggressive bully today. In fact, I don't identify as aggressive bully. I'm a nice person. I'm going to get up. I'm going to train. I'm going to help others. And I'm not going to be an aggressive bully
Mm.
because I'm a nice person. So I think for me, you can take things to heart too much. You can almost like, they can almost be your identity.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's a bully. He's a dick. He's this,
Exactly.
whatever.
And yeah, and you spoke about the antidote, right? So I asked you what makes you choose, and you said it's because it's not me. And what it is we're
Mm,
so programmed, I speak for myself, so programmed to believe that I was a piece of shit, that when someone said, "Oh, you're a piece of shit," I go, "Oh yeah, well that's what I've been told before, so maybe that's what I am," right?
mm.
And so that makes it easier, or made it easier for me to choose for that energy, that comfortable energy of being a piece of shit, right?
Yeah, but then go back to what you said earlier, which is we're mirrors of ourselves. So if I call you a piece of shit, I'm a piece of shit. It's
Yeah.
true though, isn't it?
No, yeah,
You
of
know, why
course.
am I
Yeah.
calling you a piece of shit, right?
Yeah, of course it's true. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just try what I'm trying to highlight the gold that you just said is you said it comes down to choice, right? And that is one of the most powerful lessons I've learned from my journey is about choice because what the what I have learned is that when you come to a choice, do I choose for um believing in the ego, believing in what someone said that is negative about me, or do I believe to in love and believe to be me? It's it's about reprogramming yourself and being decisive. Because if you give too much time to make a choice, if you're given too much time, am I actually like that? Instead of just going, I'm not like that. No, that's not who I am. And it's remembering who you are. Like I said, we've gone full circle to what I said at the beginning. I had to remember who I was because if you've forgotten who you are, like I'm still in shock about Teddy, right? And
Mm,
Teddy, I know that energy that he was holding, and
mm,
Teddy was made to believe that he was someone he's not because he'd forgotten,
mm.
and he didn't see, despite how many friends he had, he didn't see how brilliant he was, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
completely.
it was the same with me, um I know I keep saying it, but you were such a brilliant influence on me that I've had Steve, after you, I met a lot of men, right? They're not in my
Mm,
life anymore.
mm.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that you're very good at like separating shit. But it's true. It shows
Yeah.
that you've learned something, hasn't it? But it
Yeah.
also shows that we shared a journey together. We'll always share that. That's why I'm here now, because we were good for each other. It wasn't just you were good for me, I was good for you. We were good for each other, right?
Yeah. But but what I'm trying to highlight is the toxicities between men and brotherhood, right? Because
Mm,
how many gyms did I go to with, and how much politics was there in martial arts?
it's ridiculous.
How much backstabbing and betrayal was there? It's the same in everywhere. It's like in finance when I worked in finance. Same in martial arts. It's the same in politics. It's the same everywhere in every tribe. And
Mm.
but you and I along the line, along the way, we did find brothers, we did find good people.
Loads of
Um,
people, good people, yeah.
yeah, and what I always found fascinating about martial arts is that before you've punched someone or been punched by someone in the face who you're training with, I don't mean in a street fight, you might think they're a dick, but afterwards you're best friends. And why is that? It's because you've removed the ego. You've put yourself, you've gained the courage to put the gloves on and put yourself in that situation where you're like, okay, you think I'm a dick? Okay, let's fight. But not, I don't mean from anger. I mean like, we were training, we were practicing how to learn things, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes,
completely.
yeah. But it what it highlights to me is that there are so many men out there who don't understand what they're fighting for, right?
Yeah, I
And we fight
completely
each
agree.
other. They fight each other. Like, there's so much violence
Mm,
on the street,
mm,
and that's why I started martial arts, so that I didn't have to be violent, so I didn't have to fight because it followed me. And I think you're just you're a shining example of integrity when it comes to uh, developing as a man, with growing up and learning from your lessons. Because, like you said, when you started off, you just you wanted to learn to never be able to have your jaw broken again. You would get anyone that come near you, you would fucking destroy them. And I get that, but now you're saying I love teaching people, and
mm.
that's a huge change. That's a
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
change.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So why why
yeah.
why do you love that now? Why do you teach rather than do what you used to do?
Because I get it. I get it. I get it. I think I get it. I get when a young guy walks into and they're like full of anger or hubris, false pride, and I get it. I've been there. And or they're not full of anger and they're scared. I get that as well. I get it. And I say to my students, especially the young men, I go, you're gonna learn more about yourself and other people. You learn about other people. When I could honestly, I say this, you could have a friend for 2 years. You can fight them in the ring for 10 minutes. The person who's been friends with them for 2 years, you probably know them less well than the guy that's had a fight with them in the ring, because you've seen them at their like most vulnerable and what they're about and what they're made of. So I think as well in martial in like martial the martial environment is brutally honest. It's so honest. It shows you for what you are. If you're scared, you're scared. Like I said to you, when I put my gloves on before a fight, my hands would shake. I was so scared. And but there's thousands of young men out there that are scared, and like it does worry me. It upsets me that people aren't there for each other anymore. Like people
Yeah.
genuinely are so like they don't take themselves up, and it goes back to self pity. If I do something wrong and I just feel sorry for myself, what good am I to anyone else? Because I'm just feeling sorry for myself. Whereas if I shouldn't have done that, and then can some good thing, something good from that come? Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Do you know what? And do you know what? Then there'll be a student who'll come in, 20 years old. I've got this problem. I've had exactly the same situation. I wanted to do that, and then I've helped someone.
Mm.
But if I sit on my pity pot, I'm just feeling sorry for myself,
Yeah.
and,
And
and then I have no ability to help anyone.
how do you help men that come in? How do you help them?
Well, I think first of all, I think
Mm.
physically, if you exercise, and I love that what you said, like exercise your demons. You are letting go of something. You
Yeah,
are.
absolutely.
And the minute I'm punching or I'm kicking or whatever I'm doing, so I'm doing Tai Chi or Qigong, and I'm not in that moment. I'm not thinking about my problems. I'm in that moment. I'm in that moment, which I don't think a lot of people do. If you look at most people, they're either consumed with something in the past or they're afraid of something in the future. Okay, the past has happened. It's done. Forget about it. You've done it now. What lessons have you learned? How can you help someone else with it?
Yeah, yeah,
What's happening in the future, you can't predict anyway. You can kind of, I do believe if you're worried about something, you can kind of orchestrate it. You can kind of orchestrate it to happen.
mm,
You can self-sabotage, right? But you can also at the same time go, and this is like a friend told me this, is like, look at your feet, where are they now? Are you all right? Yeah, 9 times out of 10 you are. You're either thinking about something that hasn't happened or thinking about something that has happened. It doesn't matter because it's not now.
yeah. And I see if you're thinking about the past, you're in shame and anxiety, and if you're thinking about the future, you're in worry, right?
You're in fear,
Uh,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say that in order to be in the present, in order to live in the present, you have to heal your past.
Mm,
And that's what I've been doing. And I think the the martial arts, like I asked you, how do you help men in? You how do you help how do you help men come in so that they can come out? Is you you're kind of you're teaching them again like you did for me, and I didn't realize this until we were talking about it, but you kind of you're teaching men how to fight again, not just with their
mm.
fists, but inside you're giving something for people to fight for. And what I learned from you and the martial arts is it's hard to put into words. I learned that through sacrifice, as in, really hard work, like training,
Mm,
you you can achieve great levels of joy, and
mm,
you can
mm.
overcome any hardship, mental hardship, um, and the camaraderie and friendship that comes with it is well, it's foolproof because like
Priceless, isn't it?
yeah, and like you say, when like we spoke about, is there's when people are willing to trade punches, in martial arts to fight each other, and there's so many different martial arts which I want to talk about, but the it gets rid of the ego. But as you and I have experienced, there's always someone that still has to deal with that.
Mm.
Um, but how do you build? Because I know that there's a destruction process and a building process, right? So first you destroy someone, then you
Mm.
build them up, right? Is that right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say, your intention is not to destroy them, but your intention initially is to identify with them. Yeah, you can't help someone unless you identify with them. I believe, like I can't help um I can't help someone who I haven't experienced any of their problems. I can't because it would be ignorant of me to say, well, I've been, you need to do this because I haven't had their problems. But I have been a young, insecure man that's been afraid of violence. So then, first of all, I can help if they have that. And I think most young men are, right? Most young men have a fear of violence or are afraid of violence. And violence is fear. I don't care what anyone says. If you're being violent, you're scared.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So you identify with the person first. Then you identify the fear or the thing, and then you put them in it because it's not normally as like we said, looking in the future, as scary as you think it is. Yeah, there'll be some things to conquer, and then and I say to everyone I train, it's hard now. It's going to get harder, but you're going to see that thing being harder as a compliment. So, for example, you remember when I did my 24-hour test?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in floods of tears, right? And really, what did I get out of it? A piece of cloth.
Mm.
Really.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I got far more than that. I got far more than that. Now I can look back on that day and go, well, I'm having a shit time. It's not as shit as that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Talk us through your 24 hour. That's amazing.
Oh, so I was training with a person, and to get to a certain instructorship, I had to do basically a 24-hour fitness requirement. It's unheard of in like martial arts, but um, yeah. So basically, you had to do so many kinds of different tests and things, and cognitive ability and physical ability and fighting. And it wasn't just fighting, like it's not fighting for 24 hours. You had to do different things and so on and so forth. But really, ultimately, it was a test of endurance, and it was there to like break you, right? Um, and 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 it shatters your ego because at the end of it, I didn't care. I was like, you saw me. I was in floods of tears, was broken, but I did. I passed it, but I didn't really pass anything. All I knew, really, at the end of it, I was like, shit, this was really shit. But but it was really shit. But I still went through it.
Yeah.
So it was shit. It was hard. It was horrible. But I didn't walk away from it. I think that's a big lesson to be learned.
Yeah. And you
I
you kept
didn't quit.
standing, which I think is remarkable. I remember like one of the tips you were given was don't sit down because you would never stand up again because you're
Yeah,
so tired.
yeah,
And I remember we had to fight blindfold in the shed in pitch black. He turned the light off,
yeah.
and we're both throwing
You would, you
fists
would, you wouldn't
in thin
believe it, would
air
you?
in
You
the
would,
dark.
people would make it to say you're making it up, but it was, yeah, it was true.
Yeah, I know it was crazy, and he called different students to fight you at different intervals, right?
Mm.
And his students were they were good fighters, weren't they?
Yeah, and they would be at what they were best at. So
Yeah,
it was always like the best one at this one, and the best one at that one, and the best one at this one. And it was tough. And then you'd have something where, I mean, like I remember he had, even before all this CrossFit stuff would come out, he had those big farm ties, didn't he? Because it was like on a barn, and
yeah,
I was flipping these for ages, then going for runs, and then holding horse stance. Then I'd have to fight someone, and all so on and so forth. But then from that, the beautiful thing was, if you remember, from that, I'd gone to like China and Israel and Japan and
yeah,
and I'd gone literally all over the world learning different fighting arts. I would have never done that had I not endured that. It kind of like all my fear and apprehension. I was never afraid of losing. I didn't care. It's like if I lose, I lose, but I'm definitely gonna give it a go. I'm definitely gonna not quit. I'm definitely gonna try.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So
exactly.
so
You
it's
you have this fighting demeanor of not giving up, don't you? This like going all out. Because I remember when you fought that guy from the oil rig, what was his name, Alex?
oh,
And
yeah, big guy,
he,
wasn't he? He was a
yeah,
huge guy. Yeah.
he was like 17 stone. I remember I pushed
He's
him.
like
I couldn't even
19
move him.
stone,
Yeah,
and
I
he
couldn't
was
even
like
move
six
him.
four.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we were
and
young. We were young. Yeah, yeah,
and he broke your ribs, didn't he?
yeah,
And you
yeah. But
kept
I didn't give
fighting.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean that's insane.
but I fought. Then I fought in Nice in a European Championship in I think it was 2014. I fought. Um, it was bare knuckles. So it was
Really?
bare knuckle. Yeah, I fought in
Wow.
Nice. I got my ribs broken with a spin kick. I carried on and fought to a decision win
Wow.
with broken ribs.
Bare fist.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Sh
with the
oh, Shida.
shit. Yeah,
Wow. Amazing. That was my favorite martial art.
it was the best concept, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know why, but I just really, I think it was a bit sadistic, but I just
I think it's honest. No,
Getting
I didn't know.
punched.
No, I didn't get the decision, but it went to a decider. So he broke my ribs with a spin kick, but it went to the decision. He couldn't beat me, and he even said like afterwards, couldn't put me down.
Yeah.
And like so, in all the various fighting, K1, the Shidokan, the bare knuckle fighting, all of the different disciplines that I did. I think like that 24-hour test,
Mm.
it gave me the ability not to give up. But don't get me wrong, I didn't win them all. I lost some, I won some. Fortunately, I I did all right, and I got good opportunities from it. So although it was painful and hard at times, I would have never traveled to Nice and like fought in front of thousands of people. I would have never gone to Israel and learned like all these different martial arts. I would have never gone to like Japan and fought represented Great Britain. I would have never had these opportunities teaching in Vietnam for 3 years. And it's all because I started out in a barn
Yeah.
learning under a guy and I just pursued and I pursued and I pursued and I didn't give up.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
had a great life because of it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I think because I was with you on that part of the journey, I think Kung Fu, it's so beautiful, so unique. It was like your
Well, it trans
foundation, wasn't it?
yeah, it is. It is. I still take the most lessons from it. And also it's like um basically kung fu means hard work. Yeah. So it means like basically it translates, it means you just don't stop. And it is the embodiment of that. You look at like kung fu and the way kung fu people train, it's all about endurance, like holding horse stances,
Yeah.
doing different forms, doing things, and just it is it's lost now. It's become very performance based, and it's unfortunate. But real kung fu is a beautiful thing, and also if you look at like kung fu, let's say it's like the mothership, it's the start. It's where it all came down from. It's where you get like um Goju karate comes from kung fu. Goju led into Kyokushin, led into now Kyokushin leads into K1. And you can almost track everything back to kung fu. So it
Wow.
all originates from there, right? And all these different arts that I've learned, they all have like a you can almost trace it back to kung fu. So it's like now it's become like wushu and performance based and all of that. But really, at its heart, kung fu is a very like it's a really like it's embroiled in like amazing history and stuff like that. It's like wow, like you don't even know how beautiful this is and the personification of the animal systems and how that can be translated into other systems,
Yeah, and
you
in
know.
a way, you were pioneering, weren't you? Because you were following. I mean, you used to love watching all the martial arts movies, and Bruce Lee was, well, he was a mentor for a lot of kids like you and
Mm.
men growing up, and he took from each system, and you did that, and you kind of created your own system, haven't you?
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't like to say it's like I've created my own system. I've created my own way of teaching. So it's like a simplified way of teaching. So for example, I don't know about you, but in whatever journey you're going to come teachers and mentors, and teachers and mentors generally overcomplicate things because they want to show off their knowledge,
Yeah,
right? So they'll be like, this is my knowledge on a subject. But really, like we have two arms, we have two legs. Anatomy is anatomy. This is how it works. It's that simple, really. Like if you want to throw a punch, you know, there's certain ways to do it. There's certain ways to do it the right way, the wrong way, blah blah blah. But really, it's a simple process. So I've took all the like, I wouldn't say I've took all the nonsense up, but there's ways of teaching people, and
yeah,
once you get experience of that, you make it as simple as possible, and you don't make it about you. So a lot of the time I've come across some bad teachers, and the really bad teachers are the ones that will be like, well, this is how I do it. It's irrelevant how you do it. How do you do it? It doesn't matter how you do it. It's how does that person in front of you do it? What would you tweak? What would you add? Because there are simple processes to making techniques effective or whatever, right? So through experience, I've learned there's a lot of good instructors. I've learned there's a lot of not so good instructors. There's not many really bad ones because they get found out pretty quickly nowadays.
Yeah, but I think you've been, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been quite lucky, especially in this area where we've grown up and finding some really fantastic teachers, right?
Well, some of the best martial artists in the world down here.
So
It,
strange
it,
that, isn't
it's
it?
on pay. It's on paper. It's on paper.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's on paper. You've got guys who are fully qualified under Guru Dan in the Santo. What more can you get? That in this country,
Yeah.
there's like in the world there's few. In this country, you've got like three, and you've got one of them based down here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like you'd be a fool not to train with those guys,
Yeah.
right? And they in themselves have developed their own systems. Why not learn from them?
Hmm.
And this is the thing, like, and this is where ego has a really, really damaging part in training. Is well, that guy's an instructor, you're an instructor. I can't train with him. Well, why? Well, yeah, yeah, but it's not. It's you want to get better. Maybe admit he's better and train with him so you can get better. I never was shy on saying this one's better than me, that one's better than me, and I learned from them all. And I might have learned a different approach, but I see a lot of guys that are like, "Hey, shit." It's like, oh, how often have you trained with him? Never. How do you know? How do you know he's shit? You're just saying that because you're afraid. Your ego's
Yeah.
got in the way, and you know
Yeah.
he's good. You know?
Exactly. But I honor you because you kept your own style instead of adapting your style. You've kept your own style and taken what works for you. And I think that's something to celebrate.
Yeah, I know what I liked, and I
Yeah.
think I think we I
Smash.
think yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but also I think like take for example you and your journey. You're probably actually realizing. I remember you saying to me you got like a real passion for music and dance, right? I remember when I knew you, like younger, you would always really loved music, and something I think London, no offense, had sort of made you shy away from that passion. And I think sometimes, like in our hearts, we know what we're attracted to, but we deny it and we go,
Yeah.
oh, we should conform to this and this and
Yeah.
this.
I wasn't London. I was destroyed by my boss. Remember, I used to work with a really horrible guy. He completely I mean, I had three breakdowns, one a year because of him.
Was that in Bournemouth? Yeah, I remember, yeah, the company.
Yeah.
It was a big company, right? Am I right in saying that? No.
No, small company, privately owned,
All right.
and really malignant narcissist. He even hit me a few times actually. Yeah, but
Did he?
yeah, he he took me to the very bottom of my worth. He he took a lot from me, and that's where I lost my passion for everything, and that's why I went to London, mate. I didn't go to London for the money. I went to London to fucking escape.
Escape him, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and I didn't do it on
just
my own
imagine,
either. A girl helped me. The girl who I was dating at the time, I couldn't have done it without her
yeah.
because I was
Oh,
so
I remember
traumatically
the girl.
attached. Yeah, yeah. I was so traumatically attached to his behavior, how he was treating me, because he was mirroring partially how my father treated me and other members of my
You think
life.
you think though, if someone's like that, right, they're hitting you at work, blah 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 and blah. You know, they're the ones that are really like they've got some real deep seated issues because I don't know about you now. Like when I look back at when I've been aggressive or I've hit people and I've been like that, I don't feel good about it. But it goes back to self pity. I don't feel good about it, but I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to not hit people. I'm going to be kind to people. I'm going to help people. You know what I mean? And I think anyone who's like they're bullying or being aggressive, it's more a reflection of where they're at. But obviously, it impacts other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's thrown me a bit off going back there. I don't like. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, the passion. I remember. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. So the you were talking about the passion of music and martial arts, but what I'm going to blow you away with this, right? This is hilarious, right? So my spiritual journey is really difficult to explain, especially because I haven't seen you in so long, and there's so much to tell you, right? But the more you I call it purification, right? You because the ego is essentially old parts of you, right, that cling on that no longer serve you and they need to die. And when they die, you kind of continuously recreate yourself like you have done. Like you grow up, you become a man, right? You can't grow up if you attach and continue to be that person. Now, on part of my journey, I learned martial arts with you, but because of my trauma, because of violence and how I was taught not to fight, martial arts never gelled with me, but I still learnt from it. And but I had to stop it in order to understand what violence meant to me and to get it out of my system. And after doing that and after coming, after letting that old part of me die and coming to the new side, I actually realized that I have this real like you start to learn what your soul gifts are. And when I mean soul gifts, they're like gifts that you've had in previous lifetimes that have shown themselves in this lifetime in small or big things, right? But you've never been able to make them come alive.
Mm.
And one of mine is actually I've learned very recently, and I'm absolutely not ready for it, and I actually wasn't happy about it either. But I actually apparently have a very deep love for martial arts,
All right.
which is really interesting and confronting for me. But it will happen in a different way, and I don't know how it's going to happen. But um,
What do you love about martial arts? Is there something in particular that you love? Is there a martial art that you love, or is it martial arts in general?
Yeah, well, I'm learning that, and the way I learn it is through I don't know if I told you this, but I work with spirit animals.
Mm.
Have I told you that?
I think so. Yeah, we spoke about it in Ludo Lounge, didn't we, when we met
Yeah, yeah,
last?
yeah. And what I do is I learn who I am. I learn the different parts of who I am through the animals, right? Because each animal has its own gift. Now you know as well as I do that um the Chinese martial arts use the animals as metaphors to as fighting styles and as personality traits, right?
Mm.
Like the profiling we did. And one of those animals was the mantis, right? Do you remember the praying mantis?
Mm.
And do you remember that was probably I think it was yours as well, but it was my favorite kick.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
used to love
yeah,
that. It would land every
yeah,
time, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's
For sure.
amazing. Yeah. I absolutely loved that. And and you remember when we did the animal work that I had that
Yeah, yeah,
animal and you had your
yeah,
animals, right?
yeah.
And it helped me understand who I am, and also helped me understand that my love for martial arts is completely different and unique to yours.
Mm.
And I learned that the true power of the mantis is actually reverence. It's called the reverent warrior. And I know you watch a lot of martial arts movie, but I watch a lot of martial arts anime.
All
And
right.
there's this brilliant one called Baki. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
I've seen like
amazing.
things of it. He's like it's really hard,
So
isn't
cool. It's so cool.
it?
Like the detail they go into with all the different martial arts is
And
amazing.
how he trains as well, doesn't he? He
Yeah, but
trains like
but
is
how it's all about
phenomenal.
overcoming the father, right? It's amazing. Like it's every man's journey, overcoming the father.
Hero's journey.
Yeah. And there's one episode where he's training to finally have the showdown with his father. His father's like, okay, yeah, you're ready, and he fights a praying mantis, a giant praying mantis, and it's incredible. It's like he's talking about how it's like the perfect warrior has no weaknesses, and it's like kicking his ass and everything, and it can see in 360 degrees. And he ends up like fighting it for hours to learn its weaknesses, and eventually he's able to defeat it. And that was the clue for me that there's something there for me.
Yeah. Well, then you should train a mantis system.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like maybe I truly believe as well that you're attracted to like you look at take for example martial art, any martial art. Different people will watch different martial arts and go, well, I don't like that. I like that. That's your body or whatever your mind telling you that you're attracted. That martial art is for you. You can see it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like like you say on
Well,
your
I was
journey,
attracted to Shidakhan,
right?
Kyokushin. I don't know why, but there's something about hitting the body bare fist that just to me felt real.
It's honesty. It's honesty, isn't it? Well, what's Kyokushin translated as? It's the ultimate truth. That's
Really?
what it means. Yeah, the ultimate truth.
Yeah. And
Because it's the original bare knuckle form of combat, isn't it?
yeah, and I think I had this I think you're fully aware of this that I had this journey with pain, you know. I had this real strange relationship with pain
Mm.
where I kind of sought out high amounts of pain. And do you remember that
I
when
remember when you smashed the window as well. Do you remember that? When you got a big cut.
which time?
There was one time it was like really like it was dangerous. You'd like lost a lot of blood.
Are you talking about my leg?
Was your leg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was because of a girl and a lot of alcohol. Yeah, that I was on crutches for 4 months. I lost nearly lost my leg.
You
Yeah.
lost pints of blood, didn't you?
Yeah, I lost 4 points. Yeah, that was horrendous. Yeah, and that made me leave university after that because that happened at university. Yeah, I nearly killed myself because yeah, and
Mm.
yeah, I had this relationship with pain where you know how people self-harm, flat.
Yeah.
Is it called get what you call it, where you whip yourself? Is it flagellation?
Flagellation.
Yeah,
Flagellation. I think so.
yeah.
Self-flagellation, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's it comes from like this really dark religion. It's like it's really old, and it comes from a really deep-seated shame of you deserve a deserved self-harm, and it took me a long time to get that out of my system, and a lot of it came from, you know, we were talking about being a bully earlier. There's this
Mm.
really deep unconscious part of me that couldn't forgive myself for how I had bullied other people and treated them. And so this inner clock, this inner voice would punish me for every breath, every step that I took. You know, I honor myself for being here today, mate, because
Mm.
every step was a challenge, you know.
I think though as well, it goes back to what you were saying. You can be over analytical, can't you? You can be over like you
Yeah.
know, just because you've done something wrong, you can overthink about the negative side of things. It's like, yeah, you may have been a bit like aggressive or a bit bully. You were a child in primary school. You
Yeah.
can't let it, you can't let it like, you can't let it be like your identity. But at
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
time, you can be wired that way, can't you? And
Yeah.
I think that's what I say to like young guys. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm shit. I'm not
But
getting it." Like,
yeah. Right, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. For me, my journey was quite um well, it was quite I don't have a word for it. Like it was tough because when I accepted that I was a bully, it was such a shock to my system. We changed schools. I went to St. Peter's, and on my first day, a kid came up to me and kneed me in the bollocks. And then I became the bullied. So, you know, what you give, you get, like you said,
yeah,
like
like
attracts
like
like.
attracts to like, yeah.
Yeah. And but it wasn't as if I wasn't being bullied at home anyway, right? Otherwise,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
would I have
yeah.
known that behavior?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying about like my youth and stuff, doesn't it? Aggression at school, aggression. I'm like, for fuck's sake, right? I have to do something about aggression. It seems to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were really like and you still are, but back then, everybody had this judgment of you and your brother that you were these two nice guys, right? And but you came with this real like hidden like I'm just going to call it what it is, this Irish blood of like being naturally um natural fighters, if you know what I mean. Do you get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we were.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't like it was in us to not sort of shy away, wasn't it, from
exactly. That's what, yeah,
aggression?
yeah, and I think you manage to keep that kindness and niceness, but also learn how to get to a stage where people are like, yeah, he's really nice, but don't fuck with him, because he will absolutely destroy you because he can fight. And you, I think that's honorable as well because most people lose themselves, and like you said, in the ego when people get powerful with martial arts, they use it for the wrong purposes. And I think even though you may be hard on yourself on how you behaved, I think you still managed to keep that humility and that kindness.
Yeah, I think it goes back to identification, though. I identify as a nice person. I'm maybe misguided at times,
Not as
but
a
I
woman.
identify. Yeah, yeah, not at the moment. Who knows? We'll all be sitting on toilet seats the way the world's going at the moment, right?
Sitting
Um,
on toilet seat.
yeah, it's the way the world's going, isn't it? But yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I was aggressive at times. Like, say I'd done something and I felt guilty about it. I felt guilty about it because I knew it wasn't me. So, and I wouldn't procrastinate about it. I was always doing, if you recall, I never really gave myself time to beat myself up because I would be always doing. If I was working, like I was working, then I was training, then I was in pursuit. I think that's why I see people and they say they're depressed and stuff like that. I get it. You can get low, but I think to some degree, don't get me wrong, if you've suffered a severe trauma and that it needs to be identified, you need to look at it. But I think a lot of the time you can outrun depression. You can keep yourself moving, keep yourself doing. I think what is dangerous is when you get labeled and you say you are that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah. I
that's a
agree.
danger.
I agree with the labeling, but I don't agree with running because I think what I did in my journey is I turned around and I said, okay, bring it on, let's go.
Well, running's the wrong term, but what I
Yeah,
mean is like you can distract yourself, or you can not let it be overwhelm you. Like maybe you are
yeah,
running into it.
yeah.
Say for example, I'm scared of being bullied.
I'll give you a
So
better
what do I do?
example. I'll give you a better example of what I mean. You know the American buffalo, the bison, right?
Mm,
They're really big and strong. When a storm comes, all the animals run away from the storm to find
mm,
food and shelter. But the bison goes towards it. It goes through the storm because it knows that it has the endurance to head on through the storm and get through the storm quicker, right? Whereas everyone else is just
mm,
delaying the inevitable. That's been my journey.
mm,
That's what I mean
mm.
about face going head on. And I and
Yeah,
I I
I
yeah.
suppose that's yes, yes. I suppose I haven't shied away from the things that scared me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you're really wise in your outlook on life. I think it's just been a natural part of how you see people. I think you got a really intelligent way of understanding and relating to people because, in a way, my dad was like that, whereas, someone would come up to him and they might be depressed or something and when someone comes up to you like that, like I was in the past, you may have the tendency to lower your energy to match them. But my dad and you take the energy up and go, oh, it's okay, don't worry, just put the gloves on, or go for a walk or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's the right attitude.
Yeah. Well, the way I see it is, if someone's drowning, do you jump in and drown with them, or do you offer them a life support?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, and again, these are things that we're not taught, right? We're taught to rescue people and jump in with them, and if you don't, then you're a bad person, or it's garbage.
You jump in with them, and not only do you jump in with them, you jump in with them, and you don't save them. You just talk about the fact that you're both drowning.
Yeah,
Oh fuck, we're drowning. We're
yeah,
drowning. We're
yeah,
drowning. Well, there's a life support that, yeah, but we're drowning.
yeah, yeah,
Like, no, there's a life support that, no, 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 we're
yeah.
drowning.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The ignorance of the collective society. I've had so many conversations with men where I've said, I've been I went on started my spiritual journey, and like anyone who first starts, you're like, oh wow, it's amazing. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And there's like this preaching energy that comes with it. I remember I was out, and this guy goes, why would you do that? Like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, I thought it was the most stupid question I've ever been asked because. I said, well, because I want to improve who I am. And he's like, but I'm great as I am. And I was like,
Then you know you're fucked.
yeah,
You're
if
fucked. If you
if you're
think
not,
you're great as you are.
yeah, if you're not constantly recreating who you are to be better,
Striving, right? It is some goal, project, whatever it may be.
yeah,
You because otherwise you're kind of giving up in a way, aren't you? If you're there going, yeah, I'm happy with who
it's
I am. It's like
stagnation.
really, yeah, it is. Yeah. It I think that's another thing is like I hear people. I hear a lot of it will get better when it will
Oh,
get better when I get it'll get better when I get a girlfriend. It'll get better
get the
when I
house.
get this when I get yeah when I get and I'm like, why can't it be better now? Why can't it be better like and also as well the crushing disappointment when they get the girlfriend, when they get the house, because it wasn't the thing that they
Yeah, yeah, I went on
you
that
know
journey. Absolutely, yeah, and I still see people doing it. They're not happy with the high salary. They're not happy with the girlfriend. Not happy with the marriage. Not happy with the house. Not happy with the children. And it goes on and on and on
crazy.
because
But
all of this stuff
because they're
can't
not
happen until you accept who you are. You shouldn't be getting married or
or,
having kids or even having a dog before you've looked at yourself.
or being honest, and it doesn't make you happy. It's just it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's a thing. If you don't get me wrong, it might make you happy for like 10 minutes, but I'm sure there's a lot of depressed millionaires out there. I'm
Yeah,
sure of it.
yeah. Well, money's definitely not
Don't get me wrong, it can
not
facilitate a lot of things that will make your life easier. And I'm
yeah.
not saying money's evil. I don't believe it
No,
is. I think
no.
but I
Money is a form of energy that's been manipulated to control in many ways. But there's a purity to receiving and giving. This continuous cycle of abundance and I notice in that in you you're very generous and you received back through your following your passion and that's the true energy of money. It's about following your joy and
mm,
allowing that joy to come back to you. And I think that's where people struggle in receiving money because they don't, deep down, they don't feel worthy enough to feel it. And that stops that energy coming to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I also like whatever, like I say, when I get this, when I get that. Also, another, I think, a tragic thing in men is, oh, I used to be this. Why can't you still be that? Why can't, like, oh, where I used to be the best. Or do you know what I mean? Like, they live so much in the past. It goes back to past and future. I used to love training. Why, why are you talking about it like you can't do it now? Of course you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
it's a tragic. It's tragic. You see, especially in these guys that are depressed.
Mm.
I used to love this, or I used to do it. You loved
Yeah.
it. Why have you
And
stopped?
yeah, I remember one of the parts of our journey was overcoming injury, you know.
Mm,
People would give up their everything for because of an injury,
mm,
and we were taught to train through that injury. Do you remember?
mm.
And I'm
Well,
not saying all injuries, but because I remember that, you know, I couldn't train through my back problems and I had to get that sorted. But the the obstacles that are thrown in front of us are there to overcome, not to stop us.
yeah, I completely agree. I think as well, like, okay, let's say I've injured my hand, right? And my hand is pretty, I don't know if you can see,
I
it's
can
like,
see, it's screwed.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty over the years of training and stuff. It's not, it's not a normal hand. Um, but I still train, I got, I still train. So, but because I've got another hand, I've got another leg, it's like tragic for the excuse to be the reason. You can still work around things. You'll always find a way if you want it bad enough. But I think some people, I hate to say it, like it's tragic in young men that either live in the past or live in the future. They don't live in the now. And I'll be honest with you, there were times, like for example, with that 24-hour test, I was like, when I get this, my life's gonna be like great. We're gonna da. It was great because I was enjoying the journey anyway. So
Yeah.
why
And the
like
build up, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. In fact, the actual getting of the thing wasn't that great. It
Mm.
was the thing that got me there that was great, right?
Yeah,
So
the journey.
just enjoying the moment is
Mm.
something that I think it's an art that's lost because as well, so everything is status based, right? So you look at Instagram and stuff like that and Facebook and all these things, everyone's showing off what they've got or what they perceive other people. Oh, he's got this or he's on a nice holiday and all of this. It's like you're not that happy because you wouldn't need to show it off for a start. But also, you know, why aren't you like there's people I know that still train, like they're in their 50s and 60s. They're the happiest people I know. I know. Yeah, they're not going to be like the best, like they're not world champions or whatever, but they love the journey and they love the moment.
Mm.
And I think that's what, and even if something's shit, right, in that moment, good. You probably learn something from it.
Yeah. What
Good.
what do you think would happen to you? How do you think you would behave if, for example, you couldn't train for 6 months?
You can train though, can't you? You can.
But
You
what
can
I'm
like
just saying, like
no,
theoretically.
but you can. I can write a book about training.
Oh, okay.
I can still there's ways of doing things. Like at the moment, I can't my right shoulder is playing up. So I
Mm.
can work around that. But there's still things that I can do to train. If like I can train, I can visualize, do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
amount of times I've sparred someone and I've sparred them on paper twice, let's say. I've sparred them 200 times
Up
because I've
here.
sparred them in yeah,
Yeah.
and I can still share that sort of knowledge with people, of different arts and how they come. And so, yeah, I think you can. I think, don't get me wrong, I'd be probably, I would hate it to happen and touch wood, it doesn't. But I have had times where I've been injured, I couldn't walk properly, and from various things. I've worked around it. It's always a way to work around things.
Yeah,
It's about
yeah.
not giving up.
I've seen you over the I think for me personally, watching you overcome hangovers, I was like, wow, how does he do that? I just never
I,
like we used to drink so much as you know when we used to go out
yeah,
as kids, and I'll never forget like you were like I don't care how ill I feel. We're going for a run. And I just remember you just vomiting while you're running, and you just
Yeah,
kept going.
yeah.
I was like, "You're a machine."
But
Do you remember that
also,
time when we
also,
drank the Tizer at the top of the Hengistbury Head and
yeah, yeah.
that's
But
horrendous?
also, I think like I'm not like judging. It's just for me as well. Just imagine how like how much energy was wasted on alcohol. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I had good
No, I
times and it was
agree.
great
Yes.
fun.
Oof,
But
yeah.
like you know, if I was to speak to someone, they were like, "Oh, I love a beer. I love a this," and I'm like, you really don't. You be honest with yourself. You forget half the night. You do
Yeah.
stupid stuff, and then you're just
Yeah.
doing it because everyone
Yeah.
else is
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. I used to believe, and this is what probably most people believe, is that I couldn't have fun without it
Yeah, I truly believe
because it
that's how
made
I
me
used to
feel
think.
relaxed. Why do you feel unrelaxed in the first place? That's what I asked myself.
But also as well, I couldn't have fun in a pub or a club without it, right? I don't have fun in pubs and clubs. I don't like them.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Good
wasn't my
point. Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
My fun was in the gym. My fun was training. My fun was
Yeah.
going for a walk down the beach, having a nice
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah.
But because everyone in our age group was going to the pub or the club, it was
Yeah.
oh, I can't have fun unless I have a drink. No, I don't like them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, like one of my fighters recently, he won his fight. And he's like, please come out. There's like an after party thing. Honestly, Alistair, I can say with my hand on my heart, as I ate that kebab on the way home, that was the highlight of my night. I hadn't drunk. I was watching like teeny boppers doing their thing, and fair play to them. They were enjoying themselves, or their perception of enjoyment was there. It was so nice for me to just go, yeah, I'm going home now. It's for them, it's like, yeah, but it's early. And I was like, for me, it's fucking late. I'm going to be up at 4 o'clock training, while you guys are crying in the beds.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but at the time, it was probably our perception of fun. I'm not judging anyone. I'm glad now that I've come to that conclusion that drink isn't for me. It
Yeah.
isn't.
Well, what I understood is that, and I stand by this, is that alcohol caused a lot of my mental problems. Definitely.
Oh,
It made them
definitely.
100 times worse, if not more.
Yeah.
You know, the water holds energy, right? Whether that be good energy or bad energy. And these things are created, they're processed, manufactured, and they're traveled all over the world, right? And they go through all the different energies of so many different people, and then they're plonked in a pub, and then you put that liquid in your body, it's gonna have a negative effect.
Yes, you think what happens if I'm angry and I drink, I'm 1,000 times more angry. If I'm emotional, I mean I have whatever it is, that isn't good. That
Yeah.
isn't dealing with a problem. That's making a problem and
Yeah.
there's never a time where I woke up depressed and it wasn't through a hangover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or, in my case, when I went to London, I was taking cocaine as well and MDMA. And when you have alcohol with cocaine, the effects are even worse because
Mm.
when you take cocaine, it's like giving it's like speeding up the voice, and
Mm.
and it gets louder and louder and louder. And with the physical feeling of nausea and with alcohol, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it just means you can drink longer as well, doesn't it? Because
Yeah, but
you're
I'm talking
pepping
about the
yourself
next
up.
day when you're recovering. It's
Oh yeah,
horrendous.
yeah. Oh,
And it lasts for
disgusting.
weeks.
Don't
Yeah.
we don't remember, and you know, anything that makes you feel like that for like a week, 2 weeks, it can't be good for your head. It can't be good for your body, can it? It's got
No.
no, and there's no, and what you perceive as fun, really, you're
Yeah.
actually lying to yourself, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. Yeah.
half the
Yeah.
time.
But if I look back on why I was taking that, I was trying to kill myself
Yeah.
slowly.
People, Alistair, mate, there's people killing themselves slowly every day.
Yeah, I know.
Th-
Yeah, yeah,
th-
yeah,
they stopped doing what they wanted to do at 20, and
yeah,
they're plonked in front of a telly, dying
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
slowly.
Yeah, I see it every day. Um, but what 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 do you think? I mean, I'll talk about my experience, but what do you think it takes to break that addiction, to leave the alcohol behind? Because I think you and I shared quite a dependency on alcohol, probably me more so. Um, and I know you recently gave it up, and I also recently gave up. And for me, I'll talk about what it was for me. It'd be different for you, but for me, it was about finding the sweetness in life again. You know, like you talk about not having fun in pubs and having fun in the gym. There was,
I think also I think it's like it was embroiled in my insecurity. So, like you said before, do I
yeah,
know how to have fun
yeah,
in without drink? Do I if and actually like it's okay to be me? Like it's okay. So I have this really passion for martial arts, and not everyone else has it, but that's fine. It doesn't mean that I have to go and drink to blend in with everyone else. It's quite a good thing that I'm unique. So I should embrace it instead of trying to pretend to be something I'm not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see like this picture of like sheep, you know, and you're not,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Yeah. And I think, you know, because you had when I came back, when I saw you, I hadn't seen you for years, and I asked you out for a drink, didn't I?
Mm,
And I saw the fear in your eyes because I because I remember like I always used to kind of encourage you. Do you remember? And I still
mm,
hadn't got it out my system when I met you,
mm,
and you told me that you were going on a journey with it. Can you tell me more about
mm.
what happened?
Yeah, so I basically long and short of it is I looked at my drinking. I looked at like how self-destructive it was, and I honestly think, yeah, the problem, like when you say like people, I have control over my drinking. The minute I picked up a drink, I had no control. I was powerless because I would want to drink until I was blackout drunk.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I never went into a pub and went, I'm going to have a pint. And I never got people who did.
No.
So I never understood people who's like, oh, let's go for a pint. I'm like, I go for a pint. Would that means that I'm going to be shit faced for the next couple of days and I'm probably going to ruin my life in some ways. But yeah, that sounds great. But no, they didn't understand that. They
No.
would understand it as like, oh, we're going for a pint. Right, you're joking. You're being serious. You're bullshitting me. I haven't got time for a pint, but I've got time for 20 and a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I've got time to go and be with the wrong woman or get into a fight and but I haven't got time for a pint. Do you know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
then, and then, and then I looked and I think honestly, where I was drinking, I had this like void.
Yeah.
There was like a void. There was something missing. Like maybe I wanted to fit in. Maybe I wanted to be part of it. And I
Yeah.
think there was that like void. And
Mm.
then I realized well, it's okay to be me, especially me without alcohol. He's actually a really nice person. He hasn't got that darkness in him, or the violence, or the like promiscuity. And also, I look at the way I treated women when I drank and the way I treated women when I'm sober. They were opposite ends of the coin. One night stands, they were an object to be used, blah, blah, blah. And I'm ashamed to say it. But I then looked and I went, if when I don't drink, I really care. I've got daughters. I'm a good person. But I think there is a fine line between you becoming that thing when you are on mind-altering substances and becoming, slowly it will drift that will become the control. You will become that dark, nasty, I can only talk for me, but dark, aggressive, um, woman hating, um, uh, women are as objects person. You will become that. That will become your identity. Because if you're drinking and you act like that, and then slowly you're around it with your friends, because you like attracts like, you will become that, even when the drink's put down
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you're not looking at the problems,
Yeah,
you know?
it's a great example. That's why I said, I used to have other friends and I don't now because, I was looking for brotherhood, right? You know,
Mm. I
you
think
and I,
that's a part of it.
yeah, it is, and that's what this my channel's about. It's about the brotherhood and recognizing men who may come as ordinary but are actually heroes like yourself. And it's the brotherhood is distorted hugely, especially with the way that men treat women. Because I was going through, from a young age, always had a lot of respect for women. But as you said, the like attracts like. I started trying to fit in, especially in London, and I started hanging around with men that were like, oh, women are just they're just objects to be used, and they're feminists and they hate men and they use
Mm,
me. And I saw their wounding in their mothers. It was always to do with their mothers, or like I had one friend who was he was 5'4", couldn't get a woman, and then he had this huge sprout to 5'10", and all of a sudden women wanted to sleep with him, and he resented them for that. And I was
mm,
hanging around with men like this, and I'm coming home to my girlfriend, and she's like, why are you friends with this?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then he started commenting about the kind of women that I like, and it was so destructive. And then I went away to the jungle in Peru to start my spiritual journey, had an amazing, introspection about myself, came back and told my friends, and they said, "You're fucking loopy, mate."
mm.
Because
Yeah.
all I said was, can you not speak so derogatory about women like that? And that was
Mm.
it. That was the end of our friendship.
And but Alistair, like I've got a question for you then. So when they were saying like, oh, women are feminists and women are like aggressive and stuff like that, I think when you saw these men with women, you probably saw that they were attracting like attracts like, right? So they were there attracting women that were aggressive because of their own behavior. Do you see what I mean? So it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, when I was drinking, I was like, "Oh, women are slags," and da 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 da. And I'm not saying they were slags. What I'm saying is, I was attracting women that were promiscuous.
Promiscuous, yeah.
I was promiscuous. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're
So,
right. You're right. Yeah, I one of my friends, he used to brag about how many women he slept with, and I was never in favor of that. Because, and then the guy stood next to him was like, "Oh, women are whores," or they're and promiscuous. It's like, but you're talking about using women for sex. It's like you say, like attracts like, but it's always mirrored. It's always the reverse in the feminine to the masculine, so it's slightly different. So like when a woman has money, she attracts a poor man. And when a man has money, he attracts a poor woman. Do you understand? It's
yeah, yeah.
always reversed. And
But I also I also think though, if you're like, I can only look at myself, for example. If you're there, if you kind of want to seek what you say. So if you're like, oh, women are this, that, and the other, you'll attract that promiscuous woman because you're seeking it. You're seeking validation of what you think. But also in that, when I did see women in that way, I was quite a damaged person because I was quite like hurt by women. I was like a smaller, chubby teen. I was always rejected by women, and then like grew, became more athletic, da da da, and I could attract women. But I was still really that shy, chubby teen that was like, "Well, they fucking reject me. They treat me like shit." Da 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 da. So I'm the one that's damaged, but just issuing out damaged behavior.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
And
alcohol facilitates that.
yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, I forgot about that. The alcohol. Yeah, I think the reason why people drink is it relaxes them into giving them a false sense of security of being themselves.
Mm.
And that's where the addiction comes from because when you have, I'll speak for myself, but when I used to have three or four pints, I'd be like, oh, okay, I feel safe here now. There's a few, 100 people in here, say, for example. When I walked in, I didn't feel safe to be myself. But now I've had a few drinks, I feel safe. And I think people drink it to feel safe, but it's false. It's an illusion. It's not. It's a temporary solution that just it doesn't work. It does more destruction than good because it builds up on the false pretense that you're not loved.
I also think that you you've kind of like what you said there is it is a false pretense, but you probably should feel uncomfortable in a room full of 100 people drinking. You're probably your body telling you that you're
Yeah,
right. If we
exactly.
look at it from a self-preservation point of view, I now I feel more comfortable. That's probably not a good thing. You probably your body was like that because it's like actually you're in a dangerous place, you're in a dangerous environment, and if you're not drinking, leave.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Right.
you're right because I had this the other day, right? I was my partner and I went to see an accountant about opening up a business, right? And when afterwards we thought, oh, we'll go have a coffee and some food to discuss what we spoke about, and we brought our notepads and we had a lovely time in cafe. And but the cafe closed at like four in the afternoon, and we were having we were learning so much and having such a good time. They were like, oh, let's go somewhere else. And we walked around just in Westbourne, walked around and all the cafes were shut. So we started going in pubs. And every time we walked in, we felt horrible. And we are like, oh, I don't want to be in here. Let's try somewhere else. We tried like five different pubs, and our bodies were just like, no, we can't stand it. And we weren't going to go in there for a drink. We just wanted to go in there so we could write and talk and have a glass of water or whatever. But the energy in there is so toxic.
Mm.
For that reason that you're talking about, and I expect that if you're right, if I had had a drink, which I wouldn't, but if I had, then I probably would have felt right at home.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's probably telling you that it's false. It's what goes back to what you say, it's false.
Yeah,
I had a lovely time at the pub. You really didn't, because you didn't want to
yeah,
be there in the first place.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I think a lot of like what we've been talking about, if you look at it, it's just about being honest with yourself. And that's really hard to do because sometimes we just want to be sheeple. We want to like blend in with everyone.
Mm.
Well, Dave goes to the pub, so I want to, but you don't like drinking, Steve. Yeah, but Dave does. And I want to be around Dave and da 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 da. But don't be sheeple. Like, say to Dave, "Oh, all right, mate. Do you want to go for a walk down the beach? Probably enjoy it more." You know what I mean? I think, especially young people, they do. You know, like you look at young guys. I've got to be probably a bit of bee in my bonnet about this stuff, but I look at young men and they drink to excess, they take drugs to excess, and they um they they sleep with numerous women to excess, and they just do things to excess, and then they ask themselves why they're depressed, or they game for 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're like
Gaming's the new escape, isn't it? Escaping this
yeah, and
reality
it's
into a false reality.
none of them are sitting with their feelings and actually asking themselves what would make them happy.
Yeah, and it's always the tough choice of following your dreams and doing the hard work that requires. And because again, it goes full circle to initiation, we're not initiated how to make our dreams come true. It's easier to go, hey guys, I'm online. Do you want to play? And I went through
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I used to come home at 5 and I'd be playing till midnight. I used to spend years doing that. Years I lost
Mm,
to computer games. And do you know what? My body didn't like it when I'm
mm.
firing fake bullets and fighting games and stuff. My body went like this. It went,
Yeah.
hated it.
Slaughtering people, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
and the
yeah, well, I'm
graphics are
slaughtering
real.
people. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Crazy.
that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like Grand Theft Auto, right? Where they make it normal to go around like shooting
beating up
people, stabbing people,
prostitutes.
and stealing cars. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's and they think that's okay and it's fun. It's not affecting them psychically, but
yeah.
it is. It just goes into your unconscious, and then it oozes out in your behavior and into life, daily life.
There's not that much darkness that you can have in your life that it doesn't affect you. I don't care what you say. If you're there playing a game and it's about beating up prostitutes, killing people, and robbing cars, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. If
Yeah.
you said, "Well, how do you spend your free time?" Oh, I battered this prostitute, and I went and robbed a car, and then I shot some guys in the hood up. People, what? Oh no, but no, I did it in virtual reality. Oh, well, that's fine. Still, you're living here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've never seen it that way. That's quite interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, and not only that, I did it for fun.
Yeah.
Oh shit. You did
Yeah.
what for fun?
Yeah. I know, and it's the same with movies. Like I've had to cut violent movies um out of my life, and that's challenging because some of my favorite movies were very violent, like the old ones, like the
I
Arnold
don't like,
Schwarzenegger. Hey, come on,
you
do it.
know,
Come here.
yeah. I no, I love all that, like,
Yeah,
Van Damme movies and all that. But now I watch them and I'm like, and they bore me to a degree because it's just not
even
who I am
Bloodsport,
anymore.
even Bloodsport.
I mean, Bloodsport's an exception. It's such a good film, but it should have got an Oscar. But no, in all seriousness, like I wouldn't like. I don't know. It was a good time. It was a good fun youth thing, but
Yeah,
really, like
yeah. No, it
it
doesn't
is
help.
what it.
No, it's
No,
a part of programming that goes deep, where men are programmed to accept and normalize violence in their life. And if you notice, most women aren't attracted to violent movies, they're attracted more to comedy or romance. And so
yeah,
in that respect, I would say women are more powerful spiritually and emotionally because they're more in their
they're
heart.
more in tune, aren't they? They're more
Yeah,
in tune.
yeah, they are. They're more in tune with reality, the true reality of love. And saying love is such a generic term, and it's really a turn off for men when you talk about that word. And it's taken me a while to
Scared of it.
understand it. Yeah, but it's
Scared of it,
it's
aren't they?
also it doesn't to me. It's such a large word that it's not. It's too generic. It's like saying all women are beautiful. It's not. You know.
Yeah,
Women all women are
it's
beautiful but in their own way, and what I find beautiful might someone else might not find beautiful.
yeah,
and
it's a
and
bit
so
it's a love is what love is to me and love is to you is unique.
yeah,
That's what love is.
but let's just talk a little bit about lust and sex, right?
Mm,
The men tend to believe that love comes through that passion of sex, right? And
mm,
I went through a very difficult journey of purifying that in my system because I I used to I was very wounded by how um promiscuous previous partners had been with me, had cheated on me, and that
mm,
that made me I already was, but it made me buckle down on monogamy. I was always more into long-term loving relationships, but there was also this, like you said, that I had to take part in in my I had to take responsibility for my part in those relationships that didn't work because I was seeking sex, that
mm,
lustful sex instead of that true connection of friendship, which is true love. and that's why I've done it right this time. Like we were friends for 9 months before we made a move on each other, and that's what I said I would
Mm,
do, and so I honored that. But in all my previous relationships, there was always a problem because the foundations were not based on friendship. They were based on what can we get out of each other.
yeah.
Like you said,
Yes, yeah. You lust after people, right? And you confuse lust with like, and men are visual, aren't they? So men will be like, she's gorgeous, da da da, and they mistake that like wow for love, right? But love is I don't know, like you know, love is that person that will turn up when you're at your lowest, when it's that person that's it's not about like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like, great sex is great sex, it's great, but it in the grand scheme of things, is that person there for you when you need them? Are you there for them? Do you think about them on a different level? Are they someone you connect with? And I think especially for young men, it's sometimes I'm more than guilty of this, especially in my youth. I was like, oh, I remember I broke up with a girl, and it was like I was like devastated. But I remember vividly, like, who's gonna fuck me now? And that's not love. I wasn't devastated because of love. I was devastated because I wasn't going to have a shag for a week or two. And that's awful, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I think, especially our generation, like if you look at our generation, we were both born in the 80s. Porn came in,
Mm.
and that's so toxic. And
Porn and violence, wasn't it? Every film was violence. Everything was like macho driven, and like it was porn and violence. It was like
yeah,
it was kind of oh, you would call it like I don't know, like kind of like a time of taboo, really, because everything was taboo. There was like porn VHSs, violence was prominent. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. And I've learned a really valuable lesson with this on my journey is the, that energy of lust of wanting to have sex is the energy of life force, which is the energy of creation, and women hold that energy of creation because they have a womb, and so we tend to be attracted to that energy because they're magnetic and we're like charged electrical charge, and so when we want to ejaculate, we want to explode, but afterwards we feel drained, and it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that kind of energy, and that comes from this false destructive distorted energy of stealing energy from feminine, because it's not so much stealing, but it's about where do you put that energy of creation? Do you always give it away in sex, or do you put it into creating your dreams? Because I've learned about you know the true meaning of making love, and it's very difficult to put
That's
into
that's that's
words.
what I was going to come. That's what I was going to come to. There is a definitive difference between having sex and making love and connecting with someone, really
Yeah,
being with them. And I think that's an energy. And like you say, right? And for me, right after, do you feel drained? Do you feel robbed of something, or do you feel like I'm together with someone? And I think that sometimes it's not a word thing; it's a feeling,
yeah,
it's a connection.
yeah, and that's what I think women are missing from men, and men are missing from themselves, and they tend to I think this is why porn is such a huge problem, is when men are masturbating. It doesn't even have to be porn, but if men are masturbating, they're giving away that creative energy, and when they give it away, they seek it from a woman or from someone else. There's so many
It's
distortions
not
around
even
it.
realistic. It's not even realistic, is it? It's not even. It's like you know, what is jacking off? It is basically, it's just wasting your time. It's wasting energy.
Yeah.
Like it is, it goes, it's no different from gaming to me. Like if you're gaming for 10 hours or you're jacking off 3 or 4 times a day, that's fucking valuable energy that could be used to go into your passion, to go into something else, or go into the person that you love, rather than wasting it and using up energy it's a waste. You
Yeah,
literally are.
and why but why are men masturbating 3 to 4 times a day? Is that they're trying to fill that hole, that
It's a
emotional
void.
hole. Yeah.
It's a void.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm talking about when I come to, using the word love is how does a man make love with himself without a woman?
Mm,
And that's the challenging thing that we're not taught and we're not initiated.
no.
And I'm going through a journey of abstinence,
Right. And how
which
is that?
which I never thought I would say out loud.
Yeah, but how is that? How
It's
is that?
it's
I've heard
incredible.
it's really healthy. I've heard it's really healthy. Like it does put
Yeah,
life into
it's
perspective and the energy levels go through the roof as well, right?
yeah, it's how do I put it? What it does is it helps me understand energy better. It helps me understand what is someone else's energy and what is mine, and that's invaluable because
Yeah,
it
that's good.
helps me show where I have given my boundaries away or my energy, and it also it gives me this fire of like if someone dares cross me, then they've got 5 seconds to apologize.
Boundaries are in place, right?
Yeah, but also this really strong self-belief of truth. I'm not talking about aggression. I'm talking about standing in love and saying no,
Right, right,
don't
right,
agree.
right and wrong. Right and wrong.
No, I don't believe in right and wrong. I just believe in um, the alignment of love, which is the alignment of truth, right? Because
Right.
what is right to you might be wrong to me. So it's relative. It's based on
But
opinion.
what is but that's boundaries, right? There is boundaries.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what
I'm not saying
feels
so. There's. I suppose it's just I'm being pedantic with the words right and wrong because there's nothing wrong with masturbating, but I don't choose to do it because it doesn't benefit me. So it's not wrong, but is it correct in how correct in living my best life for me? No, and I don't think it's correct for any
most
man.
people, it's not conducive, is it, to
No,
living your best life?
sometimes you might need to, if you're having a bad day and you don't know how to do this kind of stuff, you might need to release.
De-stress.
Yeah, you might need to
Yeah.
release, but um in general as an addiction, you know,
Yeah, and it is.
yeah, exactly. And if it's over porn, it's even worse because it's the addiction of the slavery and misogynistic degradation of the feminine. It's horrendous and the masculine. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think I covered everything that I wanted to catch up with you on, unless you have any questions.
Well, okay, so for me on my martial journey, it came to the conclusion that basically I wanted to be something and I became the person I didn't want to become. And then I learned that I didn't want to become that person. And it kind of went back to who I was with new skills, but like a greater appreciation of love and other people because I understood was what would you say is your biggest takeaway from your like plant-based what would you take away? What would you say like to anyone out there who's struggling or on a journey? What would you say? What would be your biggest takeaway from your like your travels, your journeys, spiritually, physically, mentally,
For men,
for anyone, for anyone?
Um, yeah, it's a good, really good question. Um, my most valuable lesson. I mean, my most valuable lesson is to never give up, but I think that's an obvious one that I talk about a lot. And I think it's the courage to it's the courage to say, I'm going to do something about this, to take responsibility for how I feel. It's been the theme of
Mm,
our this talk is if I'm feeling crap and I keep attracting terrible relationships, like I got cheated on so many times by women, and I wasn't very nice to a lot of women, and most men always treated me with discontent and jealousy, and bad things kept happening to me, violence, accidents. I mean, I split my head open 10 times before the age of 12. That's not
mm,
right. That's weird.
mm,
I don't know, most people will never crack their head open in their whole entire lifetime. And yet I'd already done it 10 times before the age of 12. The 30 stitches in my head it just didn't make any sense. And, with what happened when I got my head kicked in and everything, and it just all built up for me. It was like, how much am I willing to take before I turn around and stop and do something about it? You know?
mm,
And do you know what? I got the answer to that. There was no limit to how much pain I could receive. I could have went on forever, mate.
mm.
I was no limit,
Yeah.
no limit. You
Procrastination versus action, right? I think that's like the
well,
one thing that you've
yeah,
got to take action, haven't you? You've got to take action. Like
yeah.
otherwise you will just be in a cycle of pain.
But you have to do it from a place of your heart, of your joy.
Of
Because if you
truth.
follow if yeah, because if you follow someone else's journey, then you just get led astray,
Yeah. Well, it's
right?
not your journey. It's dishonest in the first place.
Yeah, and then you end up back where you started. And I think for me the biggest takeaway is self-forgiveness, to really mean it, is the forgiveness. And I really struggled for years to really understand what the word compassion meant. I just didn't understand it.
Mm,
And I had to describe it and understand it through understanding the words that came before it, like pity and empathy. But pity and empathy aren't healthy to a degree.
no.
Pity is certainly not. It's toxic. And empathize, you
Mm,
can empathize with someone, but then what? What do you do with it? And compassion is that action, that self-action of like, okay, I'm feeling crap. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to be really nice to myself. I'm going to go for a walk in nature. My ego doesn't want me to do that, so I'm going to do that. Um, Go see a movie, write, see a friend, go swimming, do something that you know is good for you, that your ego does not want you to do. That's
yeah,
how you
yeah,
care for yourself. And
yeah,
that's the challenge, is having that courage to go, okay, I'm going to go for that walk and not ignore my intuition, and to not expect miracles like after the first walk. It takes weeks, months,
yeah.
sometimes years, and the
Yes,
journey doesn't
yeah,
end. The journey just gets
yeah.
better.
Yeah, you'll probably go on a longer walk and you'll realize that you really love. Do you know what I mean? And it will
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
grow.
It's like
Yeah.
with me. I went on a few walks, and then I became good friends with my ex's brother, and he had been in the army, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing the GR5, which is like a 3 week walk across the Alps in France,
Wow.
Switzerland." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm coming." And I only had a week off work, so I just did 6 days, and I managed to cover 100 miles with 20 kilos on my back, going up,
Nice.
1,200 feet elevation up Mont Blanc, and it was the best thing I ever did. And
Yeah.
every step was so painful, I couldn't even think about pain.
Yeah.
Walking with a wet tent on your back is like carrying someone up a mountain.
It's a dead weight, isn't it?
Yeah, and but it brought me so much, and it brought me close to him as well. And we didn't even say anything to each other because we were
Mm,
walking the whole time. But when we had to say goodbye to each other, we were in tears.
mm.
No, that's friendship.
That's brotherhood.
That's brotherhood. Yeah. Yeah, I remember he continued in the journey. I had to go back to work and barely said a few words to each other because you're walking from 7 o'clock in the morning till it gets dark, and then you have to put the tent up, and you're like, you know,
Mm,
you haven't got time to talk, especially when, he was in the army. He was at least 2 hours ahead of me every time. I spent most of the time walking on my own anyway. And when we
right.
said goodbye, it's like proper tears in our eyes, like hugging
Well,
each other.
we shared something special, didn't you? You endured together.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's like you say, these things you've got to work them, and you've got to keep working at them, and that's the journey. And when people say enjoy the journey, this is what it's about. It's about learning how do you enjoy the journey, and it does come through forgiving how you've treated yourself and others, and just like you said, getting back on track. Like you said earlier, do I wake up and still believe I'm a bully, or do I change that and just be someone different, be who I truly am?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah,
Top
thank you.
man.
Yeah, thank you for signing up to this, and thanks for your time. It's
Loved it, mate.
yeah, it's been a real treat to speak to you, and yeah, express my thanks. Thanks very much. Yeah,
Thank you, mate. Take it easy.
yeah. Speak to you later.
Bye bye, bud.
Bye.